Chapter 1. Cold night. In a shabby house. The candlelight flickered. The house was simple and small, with a bed, a table, and a chair. Beside the bed, a young lady wearing a plain white Blade Master outfit wiped the tears from her eyes, painfully looking at the young man on the bed. The man's eyes were closed. His face was green, as though he was in a coma, but from the looks of it, he did not have long to live. Creak. The door was pushed open. A tall man in a green robe appeared at the door. "Miss, he's probably dead. I will arrange for people to collect his body. It's getting late. Let's quickly return to the main house. If we are late, the patriarch will know that you left the main house. You and I will be punished." "No, I won't go. I want to stay here with young master." The young lady cried bitterly on the young man's chest. The man's face was gloomy. "Have you forgotten your identity? Quickly go back with me." The young lady's eyes were red, and she said, "If something happens to young master, why would I go back to the main house? Madam brought me into the Sioux family, gave me food and clothes, and raised me up. Now that the master and madam are gone, leaving only young master, how can I leave?" "You." The man's face was filled with anger, and he wanted to say something. "Ugh." At this time, a painful groan suddenly came out from the bed. The young lady was startled, stopped crying, and anxiously looked at the bed, only to see the pale, thin young man slowly opening his eyes. Awake? The two were startled. In fact, Suyin had long woken up, but he felt his head hurt badly, his whole body was weak, and he could not move. The conversation between the young lady and the man entered his ears. The man's voice was very strange, but the young lady's voice was very familiar. Ching Er? With a Ching Er's voice? Impossible. Ching Er was clearly dead, but this voice, it should not be wrong. Suyin thought in pain, but just as he recalled the past, his brain violently twitched, causing him to let out a painful cry. "Young master." The young lady was startled and cried tears of joy. "Great, you're finally awake." Suyin slowly opened his eyes, and what entered his eyes was a long-lost, peerless face. The girl's face was clean, her eyes were like gems, and her lips were like cherry petals. She was pure and absolutely beautiful, making people feel as if they were looking at a flower, intoxicated and infatuated. She was not very old, around 15 or 16 years of age, but her body was already graceful and exquisite, and her chest was bulging. She was truly an outstanding beauty, especially at this moment. There were still sparkling and translucent tears hanging on her face, making her look even more pitiful. Suyin looked at the girl in a daze. "Ching, is it really you?" Suyin muttered. His voice was hoarse. "It's me. Young master, it's me." Ching Er grabbed his cold hands. "Young master, once something happened to you, I rushed over from the main house. How do you feel? Are you feeling better? Do you still feel uncomfortable anywhere?" The girl asked all sorts of questions, her tone full of concern. "Me?" Suyin looked at himself in confusion. What was going on? A familiar person, a familiar scene. This seemed to be the small, shabby house where he lived in the outer sect of the Sioux family. Didn't he sell this house after he left the Sioux family? Furthermore, Ching Er, didn't she already? Suyin could not understand, and his head was dizzy. "You ate a spirit intermediate disciple's attack, and still did not die. Oof, you really are a wretch." A cold voice came from the side. It was the green-robed man. Spirit intermediate disciple. Suyin felt his brain was hazy, and his memory was not clear. Ching Er was anxious. "Young master, do you not remember what happened today?" Suyin touched his forehead. "It hurts a lot here, I feel. I don't remember a lot of things clearly. It seems like your brain is broken." The man was still cynical. "It must be the residual spirit force in your body that has not been eliminated. This is not a problem. You just need to eat some medicine, and as long as you rest well, you will recover in a few days." Ching Er hurriedly said. Suyin stared at the girl. Looking at her beautiful little face, his heart suddenly twitched. Suddenly, he reached out and embraced her in his arms, unwilling to let go. Young master." The girl was slightly surprised, but before she could react, the man's sweat rushed into her nose. She reflexively struggled twice, but only twice, and then she did not move, as if acquiescing to the young man's abrupt action. Her pretty face was crimson red, very cute. When the green-robed man saw this, he suddenly became anxious. He took a few steps forward and pulled Su Yun's hand away. Without saying anything, he pulled out the sword from his waist and shouted, "Presumptuous! Su Yun, you wretched wretch, you dare to have ideas about the young miss. I will hack you alive." After that, he raised his sword and chopped toward Su Yun's head. Clang! A sword chi shook off the sword, and the man retreated again and again. He saw Qing Er's one-hand seal, and a large amount of spirit force appeared on her fingers. "Emo Sha, what are you doing? He is my young master. Don't you dare hurt him." Qing Er clenched her teeth and angrily stared at the man. "Young master? Only you will recognize him as your young master. He is just a waste from the inner sect. Why do you still care about him? Don't forget, you are now a person carefully cultivated by our Su family. Your future is already doomed. This waste, you better get rid of him as soon as possible." "Madam, master's kindness to me is as heavy as a mountain. I will never abandon the young master." The young girl bit her lips and firmly said, "People must know how to be flexible. Look at this waste. He is already 18 years old, but he has not even reached the 7th stage of the spirit novice realm. He doesn't practice all day and only knows how to drink and gamble. What's the difference between him and the mud? I heard that when you were his servant, you were beaten by him a lot. Why are you reluctant to part with this kind of scum? Now you are the young miss of the Su family. He is just a commoner from the outer sect. Your identity is no longer the same. Don't you understand?" The green-robed man shouted. You are not allowed to say that about the young master." The young girl's face turned red and angrily said, "Get out of here. Hurry up and go back to the Su family. If you don't get out of here, today I will not go back to the Su family. You, humph, really ignorant." The man was helpless, angrily scolded, and swung his hand out of the door. Dong! The door was slammed shut. The broken house was silent. It was like the calm after the storm. The young lady's face, which was flushed with anger, recovered a little. Through the crack of the door, she carefully peeked outside. Then she stealthily took out a small grayish-brown bag from the inside of her waist belt and gently stuffed it under the quilt on the young man's body. But when she put her hand inside, it was caught by a hand. The young girl was startled. She looked up and saw a pair of calm eyes. "What is this?" Su Yun asked. "Money," Qing Er whispered, for fear that someone outside would hear. Every month, Qing Er would give Su Yun a sum of spirit coins for his expenses. "Where did you get the money?" "Didn't Qing Er tell young master? The Su family treats me very well. Every month, they give Qing Er a lot of spirit coins. Qing Er can't use it all, so she saves it for young master." Qing Er lowered her head and said softly, "You don't even know how to lie." Su Yun shook his head. "You only get 300 spirit coins every month, but you don't use any of it. You give it all to me, right?" The young girl's heart trembled, and her face showed surprise. How did the young master know this? "What's the date today?" Su Yun asked again. "Star year 1001, March 3rd. Su Yun listened and was silent. "Young master, you. What's wrong?" The young girl was puzzled. But in the next second, she was hugged by Su Yun again, and he hugged her tighter. "Qing Er, I'm sorry," Su Yun said softly. A simple sentence, but it had been hidden in his heart for a whole 15 years. Qing Er was confused. She did not understand what happened to her young master. She always felt that after the beating, the young master was strange, as if he had changed into a different person. After a long time, she gently said, "Young master, no matter what happens, you have to live well. For the master and the madam. And for yourself, you have to live well. Okay?" Su Yun nodded. Qing Er had a shallow smile on her face, and she gently left his embrace. "Young master, it's getting late. Later, I will let the spirit doctor come over to take a look. I should go back to the main house." This time, the patriarch went to the profound sky sect to settle some matters and is not in the main house. I sneaked over here, and if the patriarch finds out, Qing Er is not afraid of being punished, but I am worried that I will implicate young master, so Qing Er will leave first. Take the money and buy yourself some food and clothes. No need. Ching Er, take the money, and don't let people bring money over anymore. Su Yin grabbed the money bag and threw it to the young girl. The young girl was startled and caught the money bag and looked at Su Yin in surprise. Young master, do you think the money is too little? No, it's just, I don't want to live like this anymore. Ching Er was startled and looked at the man. He squeezed out a smile. All right, Ching Er, quickly go back. Young master, are you okay? I'm very good. But, quickly go. If you continue to stay here and the patriarch finds out, I will be in trouble. Ching Er bit her pink lips. Then, young master, if you have any difficulties, please tell me as soon as possible. Ching Er will help you solve your problems. No matter what happens, Ching Er will stand by your side. The young girl was a little hesitant and looked back every 3 steps. Finally, she left the broken house. Su Yin took a deep breath and looked at the flickering candlelight. His heart was filled with melancholy. Clang! Not long after, the door was pushed open again. But the person who walked in was not Ching Er, but the green-robed man from before. You guys haven't left yet? I sent her away and specially came back to say a few words to you. The green-robed man stared at Su Yun like a cold sword. What words? Good words. Say it. Although Ching Er is just a child that your mother picked up, she is gifted. In the future, she will take on a big responsibility for the Su family, and the road is long. And her future partner has already been decided. Although she is still grateful to your mother for treating her well in the past, but now, you two are completely different. Look at yourself. What's the difference between you and mud? Look at her again. She is already a phoenix. Don't even think of a toad eating a swan's meat, understand? Su Yin did not say anything. You're on your own. Young Master Su. The green-robed man sneered and turned to leave. I want to ask. At this time, Su Yin suddenly said. The green-robed man stopped and turned to look at him. The person who is engaged to Ching Er, is it the son of the profound sky sex patriarch, Tianxi? The green-robed man was surprised. How do you know? Is this a secret? Not really. But at present, she should be the only one who does not know. I believe you have heard of the profound sky sex name, and people should know their own limits. If you do not want to be kicked out of the outer sect, be honest and stop pestering the young miss. Otherwise, the profound sky sect will not let you go, and even the Su family will not tolerate you. With that, the door closed and the man left. Su Yin laid on the bed, motionless. When he first woke up, his mind was hazy, but now that he had recovered, his memory was very clear. The conversation between Ching Er and the green-robed man had convinced him of it. He was reborn. In his memory, Ching Er had died a long time ago. In his memory, when Su Yun was 10 years old, he stepped into the 5th stage of the spirit novice realm. He was the most talented genius in the history of the Su family. At that time, Ching Er was not as talented as him. The two of them had always been watched by the Su family and were the most promising candidates to enter the main house. But what was puzzling was that after he stepped into the 5th stage of the spirit novice realm at the age of 10, Su Yun's talent seemed to have been exhausted. In the next 8 years, his cultivation had been slowly advancing until he was 18 years old, and he was only at the 6th stage of the spirit novice realm. Su Yun lost his genius aura and was gradually forgotten. A few years later, his parents met with the demon beasts and left. One after another, Su Yun gave up on himself and was full of despair. He drank every day, became addicted to gambling, and lost all the wealth his parents had left him. On the other hand, Ching Er was still very talented. Before she was 18 years old, she had already entered the spirit novice realm and was directly accepted into the main house. But Su Yun, at the age of 18, was assessed as 6th stage of the spirit novice realm. According to the rules of the Su family, he would be sent to the outer sect and lose all the privileges of the inner sect. The Su family was cruel, survival of the fittest. Because of this, Su Yun, who was very dissatisfied with being sent to the outer sect from the inner sect, went to the steward's house to protest and was beaten and fell into a coma. This was the content of this life, and according to the memories of his previous life, this matter was not over yet. The Sioux family wanted to climb up the big tree that was the profound sky sect, and specially arranged for Ching, and Tianhe's marriage. Ching Er's beauty could topple cities. Her talent was extraordinary, and she was the most suitable talent partner. Countless people admired her, and even the sons of the patriarch drooled over her. Tian Shi, the dissolute hedonistic son of a rich family, had no opinion on this, but Ching Er strongly opposed this marriage. But what was the use of her opposition? The wedding date had been set, and as long as she had a breakthrough in her cultivation, she would marry into the profound sky sect. Ching Er was forced to leave the Sioux family, but before she left, she deliberately came to find Su Yun. But that night, Su Yun was still drunk and missed the last parting with Ching Er. Ching Er did not escape far from the Sioux family, and was caught up by the Sioux family and the profound sky sect. After the negotiation failed, the patriarch of the profound sky sect became angry and killed her. Su Yin remembered that it was the night of May 9th, year 1005. After Ching Er's death, the Su family announced that Ching Er died of an illness. At first, Su Yun believed it was true, but later he inadvertently heard the truth from an inner sect uncle's mouth. Because of this, Su Yun, who was muddle-headed, woke up. The departure of the last of his family members made him truly understand himself and this world. No one would send him money every month. No one would come to help him when he was sick. No one would really care about him. Su Yin found that he had lost everything and realized that he owed Ching Er a debt of gratitude. He decided to take revenge. However, was the patriarch of the profound sky sect that easy to deal with? How could a person who had not even stepped into the realm of spirit intermediate be able to defeat him? This was like a fantasy story. But Su Yin did not give up. He left the Su family and traveled around, looking for masters, looking for experts, improving his cultivation, tempering his mind, avoiding arrogance, and abandoning everything in the past. But even so, he was still unable to enter the seventh stage of spirit novice realm, and those masters were helpless. He became more and more desperate, and finally embarked on a road of no return. He snuck into the demon continent, found the devil sect, and risked his life to become a disciple of the devil sect. He changed his human blood, replaced it with demon blood, and entered the devil Tao, longing to obtain the demonic power. But reality was cruel. Even if his demon blood was changed, it was still difficult to cultivate. It was as if the heavens wanted to kill him, and Su Yun had no way out. Until he was at the end of his rope, he accidentally came into contact with an expert, and the truth was revealed. It turned out that the reason why Su Yun suddenly lost his talent was because he was suffering from a strange disease. This was a rare disease that only cultivators would suffer from, 1 in 1,000 years. The people who knew about this disease were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns, and the method to cure was not difficult. This news was like a ray of light in the darkness, giving Su Yun hope. But before he could cure the disease, he encountered a group of righteous immortal sects that attacked the devil sect. Su Yun, who was eager for revenge, saw this as a good opportunity and could not wait to cure the disease. Even if the disease was cured, it would take decades of cultivation, and it may not be enough to kill the patriarch of the profound sky sect. But now it was different. He carefully set up a plan to kill the leader of the immortal sects, exchange his head for merits, and be promoted to a high-ranking official of the devil sect, and then use the power of the devil sect to destroy the profound sky sect. However, he underestimated the strength of the leader of the immortal sections. He did not obtain the tiger's skin, but was instead eaten by the tiger, and was finally killed. After his death, his consciousness returned to this broken house, back to 15 years ago, back to 3 years before Ching Er escaped from the Sioux family, and back to the 4th day after he was expelled from the inner sect. Is this a chance given to me by the heavens? Su Yin muttered. A vow was born in his heart. Chapter 2. 2 bottles of antidote, a low-level water avoidance pearl, a bottle of black wolf blood, 3 bottles of macaroni powder, 3 pieces of tiger heart meat, and the rest of the money to buy me a spirit stallion. Spirit stallions need to be fed. I will use it tomorrow. In front of the counter, a young man wearing a green robe placed a small bag of spirit coins on the counter. The young man's skin was slightly pale, and his cheeks were thin, but the outline of his face was very charming, especially his eyes, which reflected a trace of unfathomable thoughts. The nearly 80-year-old shopkeeper glanced at the small bag and bit his lower lip. "I say, Su-yun, the tiger's heart-devouring meat is a great tonic. You're only a 6th-stage spirit novice disciple, and your cultivation level is low. If you eat this tiger's heart-devouring meat, be careful of the spirit power contained in it. I heard that a few days ago, when you went to the intersect, you were beaten up. The injury was not light. If you eat this tiger meat, you will die. Are you sure you really want to buy it? Hurry up and do it for me." Su-yun did not explain. Truly a fearless youth. The shopkeeper shook his head and went to prepare. A moment later, the items were placed on a counter one by one. Antidote for 3 spirit coins, low-level water avoidance pearl for 5 spirit coins, black wolf blood for 2 spirit coins, macaroni powder for 1 spirit coin, and tiger heart meat for 10 spirit coins, including the spirit stallion rental and the deposit. The total is 35 spirit coins. The spirit stallion rental period cannot exceed 7 days. If it exceeds the time limit, additional money will be charged. If the spirit stallion is injured or sick, it will be considered as death. The old man said as he opened a small bag and counted. There were exactly 35 spirit coins in the bag. "I will come back tomorrow morning. I will have to trouble the shopkeeper to take care of me." Su-yun took the items and then turned to leave. Seeing him walk away, the shopkeeper could not help but be puzzled. He muttered to himself, "This kid, it is rare for him to visit my shop. How come this time he actually bought so many things? Spirit stallion? Strange, what does he want to do?" Outside the shop, Su-yun carried the items and walked quickly. These items had consumed all of his savings. In order to earn spirit coins, the easiest way was to complete the task assigned by the outer sect. After a month of work, he could earn about 50 spirit coins. In the past, Su-yun would never work seriously. Most of his income came from cheating air. In front of him was a curved street that seemed to have no end. The ground of the street was made of bronze, and there were many vivid and lifelike carvings of strange birds and fierce beasts. There were all kinds of single-story houses and shops on both sides of the street. Moss spread all over the place, and most of them were old and dilapidated. The pedestrians on the road were either carrying firewood or buckets of water. Everyone looked so busy and worried. Not everyone in the outer sect of the Su clan had the surname Su. They also had people who escaped from the chaos of war and the demons. Relying on their skills, they stayed in the outer sect of the Su clan and received the protection of the Su clan. They followed the rules of the Su clan and changed their surname to Su. They worked for the Su clan in order to survive in this dark and chaotic world. The outer sect's spirit cultivation conditions were very simple and crude. The cultivation plaza was just an empty space paved with green bricks. The wooden dummies that were placed in the plaza had long since rotted, and no one repaired them. Most of the books in the cultivation pavilion on the side were basic moves that could be easily bought in the city shops. There was no supply of pills, no supply of treasures, and even there was only one lecturer. Moreover, he came every 3 days. It could be said that the conditions were extremely harsh. However, this was an opportunity that the Su clan gave to the outer sect. The Su clan's rules: once a disciple's cultivation exceeds the 10th stage of the spirit novice realm, they would be promoted to the spirit intermediate realm. Then, they would have the qualifications to enter the inner sect. Once they entered the inner sect, they would immediately receive a brand new house. Every month, they would receive 5 spirit essence pills, 200 spirit coins, and a spirit weapon. Furthermore, they would be able to enter the inner sect's luxurious cultivation field. They would be able to access higher-level cultivation techniques and have a better springboard. Their future was limitless. The treatment of the outer sect was like heaven and earth. Because of this, even though the outer sect's life was difficult and the conditions were simple, there were still many people who went to the cultivation plaza and the cultivation pavilion every day to cultivate. "Hey, Su-yun." At this time, a voice came from the front. Suyin looked up and saw a few young men with badges on their chests walking over. These people were from the inner sect. The badges on their chests represented their identity. This was the badge of the inspection team. Their duty was to patrol the outer sect and maintain the order of the outer sect. Suyin did not expect that today's inspection team would be this group of people. He was not unfamiliar with these people. They were from the same generation. Although the Su clan was a big family, many people were not related by blood. The so-called uncles were only nominal brothers of the older generation. The leader of the group was called Su Mu. His father was in charge of the Su clan's finances. He had a lot of influence in the inner sect. The only underground casino in the inner sect was also quietly established under the influence of Su Mu's father. Suyin was a frequent visitor of the casino. Most of the treasures left by his parents were buried in the casino. Suyin did not have much of a good impression of Su Mu. Growing up in the Su clan, Suyin did not have any schemes. He did not know that Su Mu and the others had set up the gambling house. Later, after leaving the Su clan, he realized the problem, but it was already too late. Su Mu walked over with a smile on his face. He looked very enthusiastic. "Hey, Suyin, I heard you were kicked out of the outer sect?" Suyin did not reply. "TSK, brother, you don't seem to be doing so well." Su Mu looked at Suyin and said, "What's the matter?" "Haha, nothing much. Brother, you still owe me 2,000 spirit coins. I don't know when you'll pay me back." Su Mu laughed. His eyes flashed with a strange light. "I have no money. No money." Su Mu's smile disappeared. His expression changed 180 degrees. He immediately became fierce and said, "You mean you won't pay me back? Fuck. Do you want to die, Suyin? You dare to owe me, Su Mu, money? Do you know what will happen to you?" "I know. Then why don't you fucking pay me back?" "I said I don't have money. You?" Su Mu was angry. But soon his angry face immediately changed into a malicious smile. He patted Suyun's shoulder and said, "Forget it. In fact, we are all brothers. We are all from the Su clan. You owe me a little money. It doesn't matter if you don't pay me back. Only 2,000 spirit coins. Brother, I don't care. Don't pay me back? Certainly not this kind of good thing." At this time, Su Mu suddenly lowered his voice and whispered, "But, Suyin, brother, I am so loyal. Don't you think you should do something for me? Like this. If you can help me invite Miss Ching Air out for a meal, then I will write off your 2,000 spirit coins debt. Not only that, I will also give you an extra 1,000 spirit coins. How about it? Eat?" Suyin frowned. "Is this request too much? It's just a simple meal." Su Mu laughed. "Miss Ching Air's cultivation is very high. Her talent is amazing. I admire Miss Ching Air very much. I just want to meet her, that's all. But I heard that you once used the excuse of eating a meal to drug the wine and knocked out an invited woman. You even violated and raped her. If it wasn't for your father having some power to suppress this matter, I'm afraid that you would have been punished by the Su family." "What? You actually have ideas on Ching? You can't slander me. My father already said that I am innocent." Su Mu's face turned red. He angrily shouted at Suyin, "Fuck! Suyin, are you fucking going to do it or not? If you don't want to do it, then give me back my money or I will cripple you." "I won't," Suyin replied. It was really straight to the point, without any twists and turns. "You fucking court death." Su Mu suddenly became angry. He directly waved his hand and punched Suyun's face. Suyin anxiously retreated, his body agilely dodging. "You're only a 6th-stage spirit novice disciple, and you dare to be so arrogant? Surround him for me. Today, I will cripple this brat in the outer sect." Su Mu shouted. The people behind him immediately surrounded Suyin, not allowing him to escape. However, Suyin did not panic at all. He said, "Su Mu, I advise you. If you don't want your father to lose his position as the treasurer and you don't want to be kicked out of the Su clan, then you better take your people and leave immediately." "Hey, what kind of ability do you have? You're just a waste that was kicked out of the outer sect, yet you dare to challenge me?" Su Mu disdainfully scolded. "I really don't have any ability, but don't forget, privately setting up a casino is against the rules of the Su clan. If I report this to the patriarch, do you think you can still cover it up? After saying this, Su Guimu immediately laughed. That's really funny. Su Yin, why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? Report to the patriarch? Let's not talk about whether or not the patriarch will believe your words. Can you even see the patriarch? You are now just an outer sect disciple. You don't even have the qualifications to enter the inner sect. You still want to enter the main house and complain to the patriarch? Ha ha ha. This is simply a big joke. However, just as Su Guimu was laughing, Su Yun opened his mouth again. I can't, but what about Qing Er? Qing Er? That slut. I will make her look good. Are you sure you want to do this? What? I can't afford to offend her. As someone carefully trained by the patriarch, you dare to offend her. Someone carefully trained by the patriarch? Su Guimu was stunned. It seemed that he only knew that Qing Er entered the main house, but he did not know why she entered the main house. That was why he dared to have such evil thoughts. Hearing Su Yun's words, he felt that something was wrong. Su Yun did not beat around the bush and directly used Qing Er's identity. When Su Guimu heard this, his smile suddenly froze. According to Su Yun, Qing Er was not the same as before. He could not afford to offend her. Even if the patriarch did not believe Qing Er's words, he would definitely listen to them. In case of an investigation, the casino was right there, and they could not deny it. Although many important figures of the inner sect were involved in the casino, the inner sect was still the inner sect. The life and death of the inner sect members were still in the hands of the main family. If the higher-ups blamed them, no one could escape. Seeing that everyone was stunned, Su Yun did not say anything. He took his things and left. I will not return the money. A voice floated over. Su Guimu gritted his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. However, things obviously would not end like this. Chapter 3. This statement would at most intimidate Su Guimu. If he were to report to the patriarch, it would be useless. After all, Su Guimu's father had been running the casino for so many years. He had already taken care of everything. There would definitely be people who would complain to the patriarch. But today, the casino still existed. This was enough to explain the problem. Su Yun quickly walked back to his house. He planned to deal with the materials he bought. In his previous life, his cultivation level was not high. But after many years of wandering in the chaotic world, he had seen a lot of things. Moreover, he had a deep understanding of the Sky Martial continent. In order to find the reason why he could not break through, he had been involved in all kinds of fields. He had done research on many things. He knew more than some of the almighty cultivators. Especially in the field of medicine, Su Yun did not dare to call himself a grandmaster, but he could barely be considered a master. He had once joined 7 sects and 5 powerhouses. Among them, Sky Martial Continent's famous Blossom Heart Valley was where he stayed. At that time, he was eager for revenge and was anxious to find out the problem of his cultivation being unable to advance. Regardless of whether it was training or researching, he did not differentiate between day and night. He rarely rested, and his attainments were rather high. Although his cultivation talent was not good, Su Yun's memory and comprehension ability were abnormal. His learning ability could be said to be monstrous. But what he had learned was not enough to solve the problem of cultivation. But that was the problem of his previous life. Now, he understood where the problem was. What he needed to do now was to find the medicine to cure his body. He did not know if his talent would return after he was cured. Su Yun thought. However, as he approached his rundown house, he heard a low roar. Su Yun looked over and saw a luxurious carriage parked beside the broken house. The carriage was pulled by a purple-horned beast. It was the size of an elephant and had a horn. The purple-horned beast had a violent temperament. It had extraordinary strength and endless energy. It was comparable to a spirit intermediate disciple. It was very loyal and would only recognize one master in its life. It was said that the purple-horned beast could pull a 400-gene carriage for a year without rest. It was usually used as a carriage. It could act as a spirit stallion and protect its master. Because of this, it was very expensive. Only rich families could afford it. Su Yun glanced at the golden emblem on the carriage. Thinking back, he knew who it was. He carried the things and slowly walked forward. Kacha, The door swung open. A white-haired old man was sitting in front of the shabby table, drinking tea from a chipped cup on the table. Suyin looked at the old man who came from the Bai family, and then looked at the luxurious carriage outside. His eyes swayed a little, and then closed the door. "Long time no see, young Master Su. How'd you been?" The old man stood up and bowed respectfully to Su Yun. "Elder Bai, you should be able to see my current predicament. What's there to talk about? There must be something important for you to come here personally today, right?" Su Yun put the things aside and said. Elder Bai glanced at those things, and confusion flashed in his eyes for a moment, but he didn't ask. Instead, he went straight to the point and said, "I'm here today to tell you something." "Tell." Su Yun laughed bitterly in his heart. He did not even need to discuss. Master Bai took out an envelope from his chest pocket and gently placed it on the table. "This is a spirit ticket worth 30,000 spirit coins. If you go to any bank, you can exchange it for 30,000 spirit coins." Elder Bai said, "Today, I'm here according to the request of Mississippi. I want to convey a message to you. Miss has already entered the Immortal Sword Sect and is deeply loved by the great elder of the Immortal Sword Sect. She has become his direct disciple. I'm afraid that in the future, she will choose someone else as her cultivation partner. Therefore, the engagement that was said in the past has been canceled. This is your compensation." After Su Yun heard this, he was silent. In his previous life, it was also at this time that the Bai family came. The Su family was not smaller than the Bai family, but neither of them could be compared to the Immortal Sword Sect. The Immortal Sword Sect had hundreds of thousands of disciples. They were strong and had a deep foundation. Miss Bai was infatuated with the profound spirit Tao. She valued her spouse very much. If Su Yun was still the exceptional genius of the past, and was still valued by the Su family, perhaps the marriage would not have been canceled. But now, he had nothing in the Su family. He had no talent, no status, and even food and clothing were a problem. How could Miss Bai allow such a person to become her husband? Su Yun took out the things he bought and skillfully opened them. At the same time, he said, "Take the money." Elder Bai's face changed. A trace of anger flashed through his eyes. He coldly said, "You don't agree?" "I agree." Su Yun was unmoved. He calmly said, "But if you want to cancel the engagement, let the person in the carriage come and talk to me personally." After Elder Bai heard this, he was stunned. He lowered his head and thought for a moment. Then, he nodded and walked out of the door. He quickly walked to the front of the carriage and bowed to the carriage. Then, he opened his mouth to express Su Yun's intention. After a moment, the silk and gold embroidered door curtains were lifted. A woman wearing a light yellow cloud robe with wide sleeves walked out. The woman was extremely beautiful. Her facial features were exquisite. Her shoulders were thin and her waist was slender. Her skin was creamy and her aura was like an orchid. Her eyes were like stars and gems. She had a deep charm. She was delicate and delicate. She was more beautiful than a flower. Her fingers were like the root of an onion, and her mouth was like a vermilion pill. From afar, people could not take their eyes off her. She lightly walked towards the broken house. If one looked closely, they could see that under the wide sleeves, her jade-like fingers were holding a slender embroidered sword. Creak! The door was pushed open. Inside, Su Yun was fiddling with the bought materials. As for the woman, he did not even look at her. Bai Yinshan slightly frowned, but she was not angry. In her opinion, Su Yun might be hiding his feelings. She saw the young man put a piece of tiger meat on the table, poked a small hole with a knife, took out the black wolf's blood, poured it into the small hole, and then kept rubbing it. What was he doing? She did not understand, but she did not want to understand, so she gently opened her mouth. "Let's cancel the engagement." Her voice was clear and pleasant, like flowing spring water. As her voice fell, Bai Yinshan stared at Su Yun. However, there was no change in Su Yun's expression. He had not even frowned. "Okay." At this time a word came out. It was plain, without the slightest ripple. Bai Yinshan was stunned. She did not understand why Su Yun agreed so quickly. "You agreed?" The woman asked again with uncertainty. "I agreed," Su Yun said, still not looking at her. Bai Yinshan slightly frowned. She did not know why, but she felt that she could not see through this useless person. Rumor has it that this person was addicted to alcohol and gambling. Why did it feel different from the rumors? Forget it. She did not want to think about it anymore. She took out the envelope with 30,000 spirit coins and gently placed it on the table. Take the money with you. You don't need it? Yes. Why? Do you still want to show off in front of me? Bayan Shan could not help but sneer. I heard that you owe Su Mu a lot of money, and you don't have any gambling money. This 30,000 spirit coins is enough for you to spend for a while. Why don't you want it? This is not being aloof, it's just my principle. If I take it, I will lose my last principle. Su Yun said, Well, since you insist, I will not force you. I hope you will not regret it. Bayan Shan put away the spirit coins and turned to leave. Wait. At this time, Su Yun suddenly said. Bayan Shan stopped and looked at him. What else do you want to say? Just one sentence. Say it. I hope you will not regret it. Su Yun replied with this sentence. But in Bayan Shan's ears, it was as boring as a child crying. She did not say anything, turned her head, and left the broken house. She did not care about this sentence. Roar. After a moment, the purple-horned beast's roar sounded again. Bursts of heavy footsteps echoed and slowly faded away. Su Yun's heart was very calm. In his opinion, this was just a small interlude. It did not affect his state of mind. In his previous life, he and Bayan Shan were already strangers. A woman who did not care about him. How could he care about her? Su Yun shook his head and continued to pound the heart tiger meat on the table until the black wolf's blood had completely seeped into the meat. Then he changed to another piece, poked a hole, injected blood, and hammered. Like this, he busied himself until late at night. Then he stopped and fell asleep on the bed. The disease was not cured, so cultivating now was futile. The only thing he needed to do now was to find a way to cure the disease. Hurry up. This brat, he actually dared to play with me. Later on, use all of your strength. I, your father, must teach this bastard a lesson today. Later on, beat him to death. Just as Su Yun was about to fall asleep, an ear-piercing shout suddenly came from outside the house, followed by the rustling of footsteps coming towards him. Su Yun's eyes widened. He suddenly got up and looked outside the house. Chapter 4. This voice belonged to Su Mu. With such a furious tone, it was very likely that he knew that his threats during the day were just to scare people and were completely useless. Although Qing Er was part of the main family, because of her low birth, she did not have any power in the main family. She could not interfere with the inner family's affairs, so Su Mu was not afraid. It seemed like he wanted to vent his anger on him. If he was touched by Su Mu tonight, he would at least be crippled. Now that he was demoted from the inner sect to the outer sect, his status was low, he had no power or wealth, no one would care about him. As long as he didn't die, Su Mu could do anything to him. Time was of the essence, and there couldn't be any more accidents. Su Yun thought for a while. He suddenly got up, took a few quick steps, and approached the table. He picked up the unfinished black wolf blood and dipped his finger in it. Then he lifted his clothes and quickly drew on his chest. Swish, swish, swish. The blood on his fingers began to leave marks on his thin chest. His movements were swift, his fingers were powerful, and he was very skilled. Not long after, an image of an evil spirit's head appeared on his chest. The basic ghost technique of the Devil's Doctrine, ghost head formation. It was extremely easy to cast. Even Su Yun, who was only at the 6th stage of the spirit novice realm, could easily cast it. Using the acupuncture points on the chest as fulcrum and the blood as a guide, the ghost spirit formation was created. The ghost spirit formation used the power of the blood through the acupuncture points to mobilize the power of the blood within the body, creating a resonance. After activating the ghost spirit formation, one's entire body would turn red and their blood would surge. The ghost spirit formation's power would multiply, and it would last for 10 minutes. However, the side effect was that the person would collapse. Because a lot of blood had been burned and converted into power, they needed to replenish their blood to recover. This kind of cultivation method was definitely not available in the orthodox immortal sects. It was exclusive to the fiendish demons and evil sects. The fiendish demons' cultivation methods mostly disregarded the consequences and were extremely powerful. The conditions to use them were extremely simple. This was also the fundamental reason why the righteous path of celestial sects could not destroy the devil sect. They were a group of existences that would not stoop to anything. Back then, in order to cure his strange illness, he had gone through a series of crazy studies in the devil's doctrine. The devil's doctrine's techniques were not unfamiliar to him. After completing the ghost head array, the spirit chi pierced through and activated the blood array. Su Yun's entire body was immediately covered in blood. His skin turned red and his entire body was covered in sweat, especially his eyes, which were faintly red and emitting a baleful aura. Clang! The door was violently kicked open. A large group of people rushed in. Su Guemu. Su Yun gasped for breath and stared at the person who walked in. Everyone was startled to see that the person's skin was completely red and his eyes were as cautious as a hungry wolf's. Su Guemu was slightly surprised. His mouth trembled. Su Yun, what's wrong with you? Brother Guemu, what are you doing here in the middle of the night? Su Yun endured the pain brought about by the increasingly hot blood in his body and asked. Hearing this, Su Guemu's face sank. Of course I'm here to collect the debt. Su Yun, you still owe me so many spirit coins. You must pay me back today. Didn't we agree that you don't have to return it? You're not returning it? In your dreams. To tell you the truth, even if you let Xing Er, that slut, complain to the patriarch, I am not afraid. Today you either kneel down and kowtow to me and do what I want you to do, or I will cripple you. I'll make you a useless trash for the rest of your life. Choose for yourself. Su Guemu said arrogantly with a cold face. He was determined to eat Su Yun. Su Yun was silent. He asked after a while, Is there no third option? No. Then I'll add one. Add one. Su Guemu was surprised. Su Yun's body was like lightning, and in a blink of an eye, he rushed towards Su Guemu. Su Yun's imposing manner suddenly skyrocketed, and his whole body's spirit chi was like a dam. What amazing, imposing manner, young master. Is he really only a 6th-stage spirit novice disciple? Someone exclaimed. The others did not even have time to react. They saw Su Yun rushing in front of Su Guemu and punching him in the chest. Bang! Su Guemu was caught off guard and was directly blown away. He crashed through the door and fell heavily on the ground outside. He spat out a mouthful of blood and almost fainted. Shock! Shock! Everyone was shocked. Although Su Guemu was not a genius, he was still a 7th-stage spirit novice disciple. Su Yun, on the other hand, was just a waste who could not cultivate to the 7th stage. Under the eyes of so many 7th-stage cultivators, he was able to seriously injure Su Guemu with just one punch. This was something only a peak 8th-stage spirit novice disciple, or even a 9th-stage spirit novice disciple, could do. But how could he do it? Young master. Everyone came back to their senses and rushed over to help Su Guemu up. But no one dared to touch Su Yun. This move made them understand that the person in front of them was terrifying. If they rashly fought with him, they would end up worse than Su Guemu. Although it was only one move, it was enough to deter the 6 people. A 9th-stage spirit novice disciple. They could not deal with him in such a short time. You, how can you have such strength? A man named Su Wong Kai stared at Su Yun with eyes full of shock and anger. Why can't I have this strength? You, obviously, you're just a 6th-stage spirit novice disciple waste. Su Guemu struggled to get up, wiped the blood from his mouth, and said weakly but resentfully, You dare to hurt me. Su Yun, good, very good. Maybe I was wrong, and your strength had a breakthrough. But an outer sect disciple attacking an inner sect disciple? You have guts. Su Yun, I will let you die a horrible death. You want to retaliate against me? Do you still need me to do it? I will tell my father, and let the Su family's laws punish you. I am afraid I will disappoint you. Su Yun shook his head. What? With my father's strength in the inner sect, he can't deal with you? Yes. Su Yun said bluntly. Ha 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 ha. This is simply too funny. Su Guemu and the others immediately laughed. Maybe you Su Yun have some skills, but what can you do? Do you think you can compete with the entire Su family? A man with a short beard said disdainfully. A mantis trying to stop a chariot, an ant trying to shake a tree. Several people ridiculed, but Suyin was not angry. He looked at the crowd, pretended to be hesitant, and said, "Originally, this was a secret. The patriarch did not allow me to say it, but today, some things are better to be reminded." Everyone's smile froze. You should all know that in the last test, I was a 6th-stage spirit novice disciple, right? In fact, this is fake. I have already entered the realm of spirit novice disciple. I believe that punch was enough to convince you, right? The so-called 6th-stage spirit novice disciple is just an excuse for outsiders. The reason for hiding it is because the patriarch intends to train me to be the Su family's secret weapon. Secret weapon? Su Guemu was stunned. Yes, Su Yun said. This matter is known by very few people. I can completely not say it. I can let you and your father make a move on me. I believe that once you make a move on me, the patriarch will immediately put a false charge on you and remove your name from the Su family. After all, the patriarch wants to ensure that I, the secret weapon, will not be harassed. But on account of our friendship, I'll let you live. Otherwise, do you think that punch would be as simple as spitting out blood? If I wanted to kill you, it would be a piece of cake for me. When these words fell, all of these people shuddered with fear and trepidation. Su Guemu sluggishly looked at the people around him. His eyes were filled with confusion. Young master, what he said is most likely true. Everyone said that he is only a 6th-stage spirit novice disciple. But how could he? If that's the case, we have to be careful, Su Yun. He is hiding his strength. We should quickly withdraw. Do not provoke this guy again. The lackeys next to him did not care about anything else. They whispered to Su Yun. Do we just let go? Su Guemu was still unwilling. Did he just take a punch for nothing? Otherwise what? Everyone else gave him a way out. To be able to seriously injure a 7th-stage spirit novice disciple. Can he only be a 6th-stage spirit novice disciple? Can he be willing to be an outsider? He must be hiding something. And what he said is most likely true. Young master, if we continue to pursue this matter, we will all be finished. Just bear with it. Everything will be fine. Let's go. The lackeys tried to persuade him. Su Guemu heard this and gritted his teeth, but in the end, he was helpless. He angrily said, "Help me go." Yes, young master. The lackeys quickly helped Su Guemu and quickly left. Stop. At this time, Su Yun shouted again. Everyone trembled. Su Guemu's eyes were filled with complex emotions as he stared at Su Yun. Is there anything else? Su Guemu almost squeezed these words out of his mouth. Regarding my secret weapon, do not spread it around. If I or the patriarch hear this news from other people's mouths, be careful of your little lives. Everyone shivered and nodded in agreement. Tomorrow morning, send a pound of fire monkey blood to me. If you are late, you will have to bear the consequences. Su Yun said, "A pound of fire monkey blood?" Su Guemu was so anxious that he almost vomited blood. That would cost 5,000 spirit coins. The fire monkey was very precious, and its blood was extremely expensive. Su Yun asked for a pound of it, which was very difficult for him to swallow. I have some use for my cultivation. Consider it as a thank you for giving me a way out. What? You don't want it? If you don't want it, then forget it. I'll go find the patriarch myself. Maybe it's not just the things I want. Maybe my mouth slipped and I said something else. Su Yun said indifferently, with an indifferent look, but everyone could hear the threat in his words. Su Guemu's heart was bleeding, but he could not do anything to Su Yun. He could only endure and quickly left. Soon, the broken house was restored to silence. Just as these people left, Su Yun suddenly fell to the ground and completely collapsed. Chapter 5. Su Guemu was injured, so his father would certainly be suspicious. However, Su Yun's strength was convincing enough. Coupled with his deceptive words, even if it was fake, people would still believe it. Therefore, Su Guemu and his father did not have to worry about anything. Early the next morning, Su Wangkai delivered the fire monkey blood. Su Yun accepted it. When Wangkai left, he immediately drank the fire monkey blood. Fire monkey blood was extremely expensive. It was a high-quality blood. After drinking it, the body would recover very quickly. After a while, Su Yun calmed down and put the prepared tiger meat and spices into a bag. He also wrapped the low-level water-repellent pearl next to the tiger meat. He also took a few big steamed buns and the rusty iron sword that was placed in the corner. Everything was ready. Su Yun directly went to the grocery store. The shopkeeper had already prepared the spirit stallion. Su Yun brought it over, jumped on the horse, and galloped away. The spirit stallion was a type of horse that possessed profound spirit chi. It was extremely fast. Even the so-called Fergana horse was inferior to it. The Su family did not restrict the freedom of people. They could freely enter and leave the Su family's residence. However, the Sky Martial continent was filled with demons and beasts. It was impossible to survive outside. Once you left the Su family's residence, there would be no guards. A 6th-stage spirit novice disciple could not even kill an ordinary demon chicken. The only thing Su Yun could do was to be cautious. He had to be careful and arrive at his destination as soon as possible. After years of wandering the continent, Su Yun knew a thing or two about the temperament of some ordinary demons. Once he encountered one, Su Yun knew how to avoid it. After about 2 days, Su Yun finally arrived at his destination without any mishaps. Tiger Plains. This place was thousands of miles away from the Su family's residence. The spirit stallion was exhausted. Su Yun led it to an open space and tied it to a big tree. He found some fodder and threw it on the ground. Then, he walked towards the plains. Tiger Plains was under the jurisdiction of the Immortal Sword sect. This plain was also one of the 7 forbidden areas of the Immortal Sword sect. Without the cultivation of 8th-stage spirit intermediate disciple, entering this place was no different from seeking death. Here, there were many beasts, natural traps, and mist-like poisonous gas. If one was not careful and encountered a spirit core disciple, he would not even have the chance to escape. Su Yun carefully entered the plains. The surrounding beasts were all spirit cultivators, and any strong man could handle them, so there was not much danger in here. As he continued forward, he arrived at the plains. There was a long river that ran through the entire Tiger Fall Plains. The river water was clear and flowing, and there were no fatal monsters in it. Su Yun found Chu Changhe and walked along the river. Roar! A low roar sounded, and then a hurried, rustling sound came from this direction. Su Yun's face changed. He anxiously turned and jumped into the river. Crash! The man dived into the water. With Su Yun's cultivation, it would not be a problem for him to stay in the water for the time it takes to burn a stick of incense. The low-grade water-repellent pearl would start to be consumed upon contact with water. It could last for 2 hours, and its effect was to separate the surrounding water and generate air. If it was kept in a mouth, it could ensure that the water around the head was isolated. If it was placed in a bag, it could ensure that the heart of the tiger meat would not be invaded by water, and the black wolf blood in the meat would not be washed away by the water. On the shore stood a white dog the size of a calf. This dog's eyes were red, and its fangs were exposed. It was extremely fierce. It was the white madhound that was commonly seen in the Luo Hu Plains. It had the cultivation of a first-stage spirit intermediate disciple. Its vitality was tenacious, and it was extremely difficult to deal with. Even 10 Su Yuns could not defeat it. When it smelled Su Yun's scent, it ran over. But Su Yun cunningly went into the water. Many of the creatures in the Luo Hu Plains were not good with water, so Su Yun dared to come to the Luo Hu Plains. This Chuchang River that ran through the plains was his life insurance. The white madhound stood by the river for a while. Seeing that Su Yun did not come ashore, it turned and left. Seeing this, Su Yun swam along the river towards the center of the plains. After a few minutes, he came ashore, squeezed out some water, and continued on foot. Along the way, he met many monsters. He used this method to avoid them, but it was not easy for him. Although the monsters did not enter the water, many of them were good at long-range techniques. They bombarded the Chuchang River, causing all the fishes in the river to be blown up. Su Yun could only stick to the river wall and rush forward. Even if he was hit by the shockwave from the explosions, he had to grit his teeth and endure. If he stopped, he would die. It was difficult to move forward, and the road was full of danger. After 3 hours, Su Yun finally reached his destination, the Tiger King Forbidden Area in the center of the Luo Hu Plains. This forbidden area was the forbidden area for all the beasts in the Luo Hu Plains. Here, the king of the Luo Hu Plains was the existence of the spirit core realm, the everlasting tiger. The everlasting tiger was huge. The largest everlasting tiger was the size of a small room. Its skin was green, and its claws and teeth were extremely sharp. The most frightening thing was that there were 2 holes in the upper jaw of the tiger. These holes could spray out poisonous gas. Once the poisonous gas eroded, no matter who it was, they would die on the spot. Countless people changed their expressions. How could a person without the spirit core realm dare to set foot in this place? When Su Yun first joined Blossom Heart Valley, in order to complete the sex mission, he stayed here for a few months and had contact with the everlasting tiger. At that time, it was a narrow escape. Fortunately, he met a small team that came to the fallen tiger plains to explore. If not, Su Yun would have died long ago. But with experience, Su Yun was not so afraid of the everlasting tiger. Most of the everlasting tiger's nests were sloping underground caves. These caves were usually very spacious, which was convenient for the everlasting tiger to move around. Su Yun relied on his experience to carefully find the 2 everlasting tiger caves. But he did not dare to approach. As a famous fierce beast, the everlasting tiger could easily capture his breath. Once he was discovered, Su Yun would undoubtedly die. Even if he jumped into the water, he would not be able to escape. The everlasting tiger would spray venom mixed with saliva, turning the entire river into a poisonous river and poisoning Su Yun to death. 500 meters was the most suitable distance. Because it was a plain, there were no trees or boulders blocking the view. As long as he could clearly capture the everlasting tiger's nest, he could calculate the distance. Very quickly, Su Yun found a nest, but one was not enough. After he marked the location, he turned around and continued to look for the next everlasting tiger's nest. The forbidden area was divided by the everlasting tigers. Each everlasting tiger had its own territory, and other everlasting tigers could not casually enter. After an hour, Su Yun found a second nest 10 miles away from the marked nest. Even though it was far away, Su Yun could still hear the roars of the everlasting tiger from the nest. It was oppressive and heavy, making his scalp tingle. It seemed that there was an everlasting tiger resting in this nest. He found a stone and drew the location and approximate distance of the 2 nests on the ground. After calculating a few spots, he took off the bag on his back and took out the heart-devouring tiger meat from it. The tiger heart was a low-level fierce beast with the strength of a first-stage spirit intermediate disciple. Su Yun did not know why, but the everlasting tiger loved to kill the tiger heart and eat its meat. After Su Yun calculated the location, he immediately turned around and ran towards the previous everlasting tiger's nest. However, before he could get close to the everlasting tiger's nest, he heard a burst of roars. The everlasting tiger left the nest? Su Yun was slightly surprised. He hurriedly stopped and climbed the big stone beside him. He looked into the distance and saw a large green-skinned tiger coming out of its nest, ready to leave the forbidden area to hunt. Seeing this, Su Yun immediately threw a piece of tiger meat on the ground and stared at the everlasting tiger who was preparing to leave. He took a deep breath and took out a bottle of talcum powder. He opened the bottle cap and used all his strength to throw the bottle far away. The macaroni powder bottle turned into a parabola and flew in the direction of the nest, hitting the ground not far away. Bada! The bottle fell to the ground. The everlasting tiger, who was preparing to leave, heard the movement and immediately turned its head to look. The fragrance filled the air. This strange fragrance had a fatal attraction to the everlasting tiger. The everlasting tiger immediately took a step and followed the fragrance in the air towards the big stone in the distance. As it approached the big stone, the smell of the tiger heart meat was captured by the everlasting tiger, making it salivate. A piece of tiger heart meat the size of a disc. The everlasting tiger growled and directly opened its bloody mouth to swallow the meat, chewing it wantonly. After savagely biting a few times, the black wolf's blood that had penetrated into the heart-devouring tiger's flesh immediately splashed all over his mouth. A lot of the wolf's blood flowed into the everlasting tiger's poisonous gas holes. The wolf's blood became muddy with the poisonous gas and changed into a strange poisonous blood. The everlasting tiger felt very uncomfortable. The poisonous gas hole had an innate ability to expel the blood that had deteriorated due to the poisonous gas, but it flowed into the everlasting tiger's mouth and was swallowed along with the food. The everlasting tiger felt its blood boil inexplicably. Hunger and restlessness slowly rose, eroding its body. The fragrance was still lingering. The everlasting tiger immediately followed the fragrance and ran. At the source of the fragrance, Su Yun was holding the bottle of macaroni and quickly ran towards another tiger's den. The powder evaporated as he ran. When he was close enough, he took out a piece of tiger heart meat and put on the ground. Then, in the same way, he lured the everlasting tiger out of the other tiger's den and let it eat a piece of tiger meat. This step was very dangerous. He had to lure the second everlasting tiger before the first one could catch up with him and let it eat the tiger heart meat. Otherwise, not only would all his previous efforts be wasted, but he would also be killed by the everlasting tiger. He used almost all of his profound spirit chi and his speed to the limit. In a flash, he arrived in front of the tiger's den. After putting down the tiger meat, he threw out the last bottle of macaroni and then turned around to escape. This was already the everlasting tiger's territory. If other everlasting tigers intruded, they would be attacked. Usually, everlasting tigers that intruded into other territories would take the initiative to leave, but today was different. When he was training in Blossom Heart Valley, Su Yun had studied Blossom Heart Valley's ancient vicious beast spirit scripture, and there was a recipe recorded in it. The black wolf blood mixed with the everlasting tiger's poison can be made into a medicine that makes people restless. Taking this medicine can temporarily increase a person's fighting power, but will make the person feel extremely hungry and very aggressive. This medicine was also effective against vicious beasts. Although this medicine was not very valuable and very few people used it, but today it helps Su Yun a lot. The combination of the wolf blood was equivalent to the everlasting tigers taking their own poison, so they were hungry and eager to fight. When the two everlasting tigers each ate a piece of tiger heart meat, they followed the fragrance and rushed towards the last piece of tiger heart meat. Su Yun scattered the last bottle of macaroni and felt the roar getting closer and closer. It seemed that the first everlasting tiger was not far away. He hurriedly threw the bottle of macaroni on top of the tiger heart meat and then turned to run. Compared to Su Yun, the tiger heart meat was more attractive to them. So even if the everlasting tiger sensed Su Yun's presence, it would not pursue him. There was also a delicious piece. When the everlasting tiger saw the tiger heart meat, it immediately sped up its pace. More liquid flowed out of its bloody mouth. But before it could get close to the meat, a fierce roar sounded. Then the other everlasting tiger flew out from the side and directly rushed towards the other everlasting tiger. The two everlasting tigers immediately fought. One everlasting tiger was angry at the other for intruding into its territory, while the other everlasting tiger was fighting for food. Under the effect of the wolf blood and tiger poison, the two everlasting tigers madly fought each other. All kinds of blade chi flew around, and the surrounding area became their battlefield. Su Yun hid in a distant place and quietly waited. For safety's sake, he was very far away and could not see the everlasting tigers fight. He could only judge the situation by the bursts of deafening roars. This fight was really chaotic and the ground shook. The place where the fight was happening was shrouded in poisonous gas. The everlasting tigers around the forbidden area all retreated. No creature dared to approach. Only after 8 hours did the roars and sounds of fighting gradually die down. When the two everlasting tigers fought, there was bound to be an injury. But under the effect of the black wolf blood and tiger poison, the injury became death. This was a fight to the death. Su Yun hid at the side and waited for a few more hours. The sky darkened, and after the poison in the fighting area had evaporated, he rushed out and ran towards the location. The ground was covered with glowing green blood of the everlasting tiger. In the open space, the everlasting tiger was dead. Its eyes were gouged out, and its whole body was covered with claw marks and bite marks. The tiger blood was still flowing. Suyin quickly took out the prepared bottles and ran to the everlasting tiger's blood. One bottle after another, the everlasting tiger's blood had great medicinal value. It was a necessary ingredient to refine high-level blood essence pill. A bottle was worth at least 500 spirit coins. The value of the everlasting tiger's gall was even higher. It could be sold for at least 1,000 spirit coins. It was said that the everlasting tiger's gall was a great supplement. If the everlasting tiger's gall was directly swallowed, it could directly increase a person's cultivation. If not for the fact that each person could only take it once, the price would have been at least 4,000 spirit coins. Su Yun thoroughly disposed of the everlasting tiger's body and then wrapped it in a wrapper. This kind of thing that contained spirit chi would not deteriorate. After packing, Su Yun did not immediately leave the everlasting tiger's lair. Instead, he quickly walked towards the everlasting tiger's lair. Chapter 6. There were 10 realms of spirit cultivators: Spirit Novice, Spirit Intermediate, Spirit Core, Spirit Soul, Spirit Star, Spirit Master, Sky Spirit Master, Spirit Emperor, Spirit Sage, and Spirit Immortal. Spirit Novice to Spirit Master were the 10 realms. Sky Spirit Master and Spirit Emperor were the 5 realms. It was said that there were more powerful realms after the Spirit Immortal, but no one had ever seen that realm. His illness was extremely rare. The expert had told him many ways to cure it. The everlasting tiger's blood, combined with a herb that grew in the everlasting tiger's lair, was the simplest method for Su Yun. Arriving at the everlasting tiger's lair, Su Yun took out a bottle of antidote and put it in his mouth. This small lair was filled with bones of humans and vicious beasts, but these were not terrible. What was terrible was the everlasting tiger's poisonous gas. The poisonous gas was not strong and only filled the depths of the lair. Every time Su Yun was dizzy from the poisonous gas, he swallowed some antidote, and his mind immediately became clear. After a moment of caution, he finally arrived at the end of the lair. When he was looking for a lair, he deliberately picked a male tiger, so there would not be any cubs in the lair. Otherwise, even if it was a cub, Su Yun would have a hard time dealing with it. At the end of the lair was a large number of beast bones. Among the bones, there was a strange green flower. White poison flower. This was not an ordinary herb. It could only be grown in the lair of the everlasting tiger. It absorbed the death chi from the bones of the everlasting tiger. A tiger's lair would only produce one white poison flower. It was worth at least 3,000 spirit coins on the market. Su Yun saw the flower and was overjoyed. He quickly stepped forward, pushed aside the bones, and carefully picked up the white poison flower. The white poison flower was beautiful and lily-shaped. It overflowed with a fragrance that penetrated the heart and lungs, but this fragrance was highly toxic and could not be smelled. Of course, this white poison flower could not be taken directly, otherwise it would be fatal. It must be washed with the blood of the everlasting tiger to integrate the poison in the flower before it could be used. Otherwise, it would be a deadly herb. There was poisonous gas everywhere. It was not a good place to take medicine. Su Yun turned and was ready to leave. At this time, Su Yun suddenly caught a glimpse of a lone skeleton in the corner of the nest. This skeleton seemed to have been dead for a very long time. Its clothes and other things had all been corroded, and its bones had been dried up. It would shatter with a single step. However, what was eye-catching was that in its skeletal hand, there was a piece of parchment. Maybe some cultivator passed through here and was killed by the tiger. Su Yun walked over and took the parchment. When he opened it, he saw that there were many strange pictures on it. The parchment had been treated so that it would not rot, and the pictures on it were carved with golden powder and profound spirit chi. It looked shiny and very mystical. Even with the passage of time, there would not be any wear and tear. What is this? Su Yun looked left and right. He only saw the pattern on the leather paper. He had never seen it before. Some looked like dragons, some looked like humans, and some looked like demons. He looked at it for a few minutes, but still couldn't figure it out. Forget it. Let's not think about it anymore. Seeing how this person was clutching onto this object before he died, it must be a treasure. I'll go to the city and see if there's anyone who understands these patterns. Suyin thought about it. He put the parchment away and quickly walked out of the nest. He found a quiet place and sat down to deal with the white poison flower. After the white poison flower was picked, it must be used within an hour. Otherwise, the medicinal properties would disappear and the flower would wither. Therefore, it cannot be delayed. He washed the flower with poisonous blood and watered it from top to bottom. When the blood dried, it seeped into the flower. Then he could swallow it. Once the white poison flower entered his stomach, Su-Yun immediately sat down cross-legged. He broke down the medicinal properties of the flower and let it work on his body, relieving the illness that had been tormenting him. His heart was slightly excited. After experiencing such a long period of suffering, it was finally over. After taking it, he slowly circulated it. Gradually, his lower abdomen became hot, and it became hotter and hotter. It was as if someone had ignited dry firewood. Moreover, this fire did not show any signs of stopping. It was still burning crazily and growing crazily. Su-Yun felt as if his whole body was being roasted. It was extremely uncomfortable. Did the effect of the medicine begin? He closed his eyes and clenched his teeth. Beads of sweat frantically rolled down his cheeks. He did not know the characteristics of the white poison flower. All the prescriptions were based on the expert side of the story. The expert also said that he understood this prescription from the ancient books. After all, to find a person with a disease to verify the prescription was more difficult than ascending to the heavens. Regardless of whether this prescription was effective or not, Su-Yun would still try it. This was the only prescription that could change his fate. He had no other choice. He did not want to be a sixth-stage spirit novice disciple anymore. He did not want to be a failure. He did not want to be muddle-headed. He did not want to be looked down upon by everyone. He did not want to not have the ability to protect others or even protect himself. Boom! Something seemed to explode in his body. Su-Yun's skin was extremely red, like a piece of burning iron. Although it was extremely uncomfortable, he could feel something in his body being released. A familiar feeling made him happy and excited. Good. Very good. He only felt that after this explosion, he had returned to the state when he was 10 years old. The state where he was extremely sensitive to spirit power. This was the state. Su-Yun was ecstatic. He immediately accelerated the decomposition of the white poison flower. But this kind of sensitivity to spirit power did not seem to stop. Instead, it increased at an alarming rate. It simply could not stop. What was going on? Su-Yun did not know, but he felt that his spirit was collapsing. His body was like a big furnace, extremely hot and extremely uncomfortable. Breathing began to become difficult, and everything in his body no longer seemed to be his own. Was there a problem? Su-Yun suddenly opened his eyes and took a deep breath. But the strange symptoms in his body did not stop. Instead, it became more and more intense. The medicinal effect seemed to be controlled by the heat in his body. It quickly decomposed and acted on every part of Su-Yun's body. It was like a buried bomb. As long as the heat reached a certain level, it would explode. Hua! At this moment, a strange sound rang out. Then he felt that the heat in his body suddenly disappeared. Even the medicinal effect of the white poison flower disappeared without a trace. His body was replaced with a burst of coolness. Su-Yun opened his eyes. He was a little surprised. Was this the end? He secretly closed his eyes and felt the spirit power in his body. However, such a simple feeling was enough to shock him beyond compare. Feeling the spirit power in one's body was the simplest and most direct way to appraise one's talent. Ordinary people could only feel 10% of their own profound spirit chi, while ordinary spirit cultivators could feel around 30%. Those who were praised as geniuses could feel 50% to 60%, and for rare geniuses like Qing Er, they could feel at least double that. At that time, Su-Yun's sensitivity was more than double. His sensitivity to spirit power was incomparably strong. His cultivation speed was simply incomparable to others. But now, Su Yun was shocked to find that his sensitivity to spirit power was countless times stronger than when he was at his peak. I'm afraid it's already more than double. 2 times. If this was in the Su family, it would definitely be a peerless genius that only appears once in 1,000 years. Su Yun sighed. He did not expect that after curing this illness, his own talent would be so amazing. Genius? This is considered a genius? You really haven't seen the world yet. My sword sex minimum talent standard is also 2 times. This is nothing. At this time, an old voice came out and resounded in Su Yun's heart. Su Yun was startled. He looked left and right, but did not find anyone beside him. Who's talking? Su Yun asked. Brat, stop looking. I'm in the limitless sword arts. The voice came out again. Sword arts. Su Yun thought for a while. Suddenly, he thought of something and quickly took out the parchment from his bosom. However, the patterns on the parchment suddenly emitted bursts of bright golden light, and the patterns of demons and beasts on it actually rearranged themselves, reorganizing themselves. Some of the beasts automatically decomposed and turned into sword hilts. Some of the demonic beasts decomposed and turned into swords. One by one, the swords rearranged themselves. The scene was mysterious and amazing. In the blink of an eye, 7 unique swords appeared. His eyes widened as he stared at the 7 swords. It was difficult for him to move his eyes. Some of the swords were like sickles and hooks. They were protected by lions. Some were bright and resplendent. They were surrounded by the sun, moon, and stars. Some were huge and majestic. They were surrounded by dragons. Looking at it, it was as if he had fallen into the universe of stars. It was difficult to extricate himself. It was as if everything had turned into a world ruled by swords. It was mysterious and endless. In a moment, his heart was immersed in it. He almost lost himself. What kind of sacred and majestic scene was this? Su Yun's entire body quivered. He tried his best to pull his attention back from the mystical parchment. He thought that he had seen a lot of things, but this was the first time he saw such a scene. He could not help but ask, "What is this? Didn't I say it already?" Limitless sword arts. The voice came out from the parchment. Chapter 7. Sword Art. Su Yun suddenly thought of something. He quickly took out the parchment from his bosom. He saw the pattern on the parchment suddenly burst into bursts of bright golden light. The demon and beast patterns rearranged themselves and reorganized themselves. Some of the beast patterns automatically decomposed and turned into sword hilts. Some of the demon patterns decomposed and turned into swords. They continued to rearrange themselves. The scene was mysterious and amazing. In the blink of an eye, 7 unique sword patterns were born. He stared at the 7 swords with wide eyes. It was difficult to move his eyes. Some of these swords were like sickles and hooks. They were protected by lions. Some were bright and brilliant. They were wrapped in the sun and moon. Some were huge and magnificent. They were surrounded by dragons. At first glance, it was like falling into the universe of stars. It was difficult to extricate himself. Everything above seemed to have transformed into a strange world ruled by the sword. It was mysterious, and boundless. Almost in an instant, his heart was immersed in it. He almost lost himself. What kind of sacred and majestic scene was this? Su Yun's whole body trembled. He tried to pull his mind back from the magical parchment. He thought he had seen a lot of things, but this was the first time he saw this scene. He could not help but ask, "What is this? Didn't I say it?" Limitless sword arts. The voice came out from the parchment. Limitless sword arts? What? Who are you? What is this parchment? Su Yun's mind was in chaos. Me? Ha 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 ha, boy. It's been a long time since someone asked me who I am. I'm the old sword scholar. Speaking of which, how did you obtain this limitless sword arts? The old voice laughed out loud and asked a question. Old sword scholar? Su Yun was suspicious. He said, "I found it in the lair of an everlasting tiger." Everlasting tiger's lair? The voice was not convinced. Yes. Boy, don't try to fool this old man. Limitless sword arts is a supreme sword technique. It is as precious as a divine artifact. The number of people who died for it are as many as the hairs on an ox. This thing should only exist in the hands of a peerless master. How could you get it in a small, everlasting tiger's lair? There was a body in the everlasting tiger's lair. This thing was on that body, but I saw that the skeleton was intact, and there were no traces of it being bitten. Presumably, the corpse died in the Tiger Valley and was then dragged into its lair as food by the everlasting tiger. Unfortunately, the cultivation of the corpse was too strong, and the everlasting tiger couldn't bite it, so it gave up. The old man heard and suddenly laughed. That's about it. Boy, you're lucky. So many almighty powerhouses failed to obtain it, but now that you have it, you are destined to be fated with it. Everlasting? Everlasting sword. The old man said, My limitless sword sect is a powerful sect in the ancient times. Our sword skills are powerful, and our sword techniques are heaven-defying. With a 3-foot sword in our hands, we can pierce a hole in the sky. You were able to obtain this technique and summon me from my slumber. You must be fated with my sword sect. Look at the 7 swords on this sword art. Each sword represents a layer of sword intent from the limitless sword art, and each sword body contains the basic sword art. I guess that the person who died in the everlasting tiger lair did not summon me, but instead tried to figure out the sword intent on the swords alone. That's why he died from chi deviation. Cultivation deviation? What? Don't tell me that this limitless sword arts cannot be cultivated without you? But if I sleep, the sword incantation will not be complete, and the important parts will not be displayed. How can I cultivate? Why is it like this? Naturally, it's because I don't want anyone with evil intentions to learn this peerless sword art. Without my approval, don't even think about learning this sword art. Then I've been acknowledged by you. You have yet to pass my test. This old man will not casually recognize anyone. Su Yun was speechless, but he could not help but ask, What is your test? The old man laughed. There were more than 10 geniuses with extraordinary talent who obtained this item, but they were all defeated by my test. Some of their talent index was more than twice as high, and they were all rare geniuses, but after they failed this test, their talent dropped crazily, directly falling from genius to mediocrity. What? Boy, do you want to accept my test to cultivate the limitless sword arts? Hearing this, Su Yun immediately became silent. The test was risky, but if he practiced it step by step, could he really raise his strength in a short 3 or 4 years to prevent everything from happening and bring Qing Air out of the Su family's control? Although he had many cultivation techniques in his mind and had 10 years of experience traveling the continent, this may not be able to solve everything. Is the limitless sword arts powerful? After a long time, he asked. The lower 4 swords are known as the sword revered. Upon mastering one sword, one can control 100 swords. The swords they control are secular swords, able to fly together and destroy everything. Upon mastering 2 swords, one can control 1,000 swords. Upon mastering 3 swords, one can control 10,000 swords. Upon mastering 4 swords, one can bestow a sword spirit upon the swords they control, multiplying their power. The middle twin swords can be considered sword saints. Mastering 1 sword allows one to control 10,000 swords. The number of living beings depends on the number of divine swords that can be created. Mastering 2 swords allows one to create a stellar sword. The number of stars in the sky corresponds to the number of divine swords. The consummate sword is known as the sword deity and has only one sword, the sovereign lord sword. Once mastered, it can summon countless divine swords at will, which can exterminate and dominate everything. If you can master the supreme sword, all living things in this world will submit to you. Don't you think it's awesome? The old man laughed. It's just that nowadays, there are very few people who can master the lower 4 swords. Other than the ancestor of my sword sect, the strongest person can only master the 3rd sword of the lower 4 swords. He can control 1,000 swords, and the middle twin swords and the supreme sword are just legends in my limitless sword sect. It's that hard to learn? Isn't that just a fantasy for me? Su Yun frowned. Since it's a supreme sword technique, it's natural that it's hard to learn. But you know, Even if you only master the first sword of the limitless sword arts, it's enough for you to dominate the world and look down on all the experts in the world. Two fists can't fight against four hands. For hands can hold four swords, not to mention 100 swords. Your enemy can use hundreds of powerful flying swords at the same time. Can you fight against them? The old man's words evoked thousands of thoughts in Su Yun. In his mind, he could not help but think of 1,000 swords, killing 10,000 enemies. The blood in his body started to boil. Indeed, there were thousands of transformations in the world, and there were countless of them. However, no one had ever heard of a genius who could control 10 million divine swords and was good at using dual martial arts. However, such people were few and far between, and each of them was in existence with astonishing strength. Someone who could control 10 million weapons was unheard of. 3 years later, I might not be able to fight against the Profound Sky sect and the Su family. If I have the help of the limitless sword arts, I can try. Su Yun clenched his fists. How can I learn the limitless sword arts? If I can pass the test, I can learn it. The limitless sword sect is of the same lineage. I am the sect leader of the limitless sword sect. In order to inherit the sect, I roamed the world to find someone who could pass the test. But after traveling for decades, I did not find a suitable candidate. Instead, I attracted the attention of many vile people. In the end, I was persecuted. In order to protect the limitless sword arts and continue the limitless sword sect, I placed a portion of my thoughts on the limitless sword arts. This parchment is the limitless sword arts. So it was like that. But you're the sect leader, but you were persecuted by vile people. You should have practiced the limitless sword arts, right? With a divine technique to protect your body. How could you end up like this? Sai, it's a long story. In fact, I could have easily killed those people, but Sai, let's not talk about it. But I can guarantee that even if I only learn one sword, it will be enough for you. Kid, since we are fated, let me ask you, are you really willing to accept my test and learn the limitless sword arts? This was an opportunity, but everything was just the sword elder side of the story. He did not know if it was true or false. Although he was eager to learn, he did not know anything about this person. He did not know if he would be persecuted or not. He hesitated. Are you afraid? One must always be on guard against others. Haha, that's right, that's right. Thinking back, I did not have a heart like you, so I suffered a big loss. I can understand your thoughts. The sword elder laughed, but after a moment, his laughter stopped. He said seriously, but there is only one chance. If you miss it, you will not be able to come again. You are worried that I will lie to you and persecute you. But you must also understand that if you do not make a decision, I will regard you as giving up and you will forever miss this opportunity. So, what is your decision? Do you accept or do you not accept? He took a deep breath and threw away the hesitation in his heart. In order to obtain power, he even became a demon. Why should he be afraid now? What do we start? Oh, you accepted? The old man was surprised. Are you not going to ask about the test? Since I have decided to learn this art, I will not hesitate to go all out. The content is not important. No matter how difficult the test is, why should I be afraid? Ha ha! The sword elder heard and laughed. Good, 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 good. Such a straightforward character is indeed suitable to learn the sword. Your heart is definitely not bad, but I'm afraid you still have some obsession in your heart. If you have obsession, then you will be persistent. This kind of person will not give up. My limitless sword sect has been silent for 1,000 years. Finally, there is someone to choose. I hope you can pass the test. As his voice fell, the parchment suddenly emitted a burst of red light and became extremely hot. Put the sword art on the ground. The sword elder's voice sounded again. Suyin did as he was told. He only saw the parchment suddenly roll by itself, and then a golden light shined. It turned into a golden round door and appeared in front of Su Yun. If you want to learn the limitless sword arts, you must go through this test. You will receive the final reward, the limitless sword sheath. Only by obtaining this item can the sword art be called the real limitless sword arts. The sword art that I practice is the real limitless sword arts? What do you mean? Without the limitless sword sheath, I cannot display the true power of the limitless sword arts. When I first became the sect leader of the limitless sword arts, I did not know that the sect's treasure was hidden in the sword art. When I found out, it was already too late. So I did not obtain the sword sheath. Hearing this, Su Yun suddenly understood. Presumably, the sword elder knew of the existence of a sword sheath, but he did not know where it was placed by the previous sect leader. Later on, when it was placed in the limitless sword arts, he found out about the sword sheath's location. This is the sword tomb. It is divided into 4 levels. The sword sheath is on the 4th level. Go and get it, the old man said. Su Yun stared at the round door and stepped forward. Chapter 8. Sword Tomb, Emptiness Realm, 1st level, Barren Land. It was extremely dark here. The sky was hazy. There was no sun, moon, or stars. The surroundings were quiet and there were no signs of life. Su Yun stepped on the cold ground and walked forward. Oh, you have never heard of the Limitless Sword Sect? When I was searching for immortals, I read a lot of books, but I have never heard of the Limitless Sword Sect. I think there are very few people in the Sky Martial Continent who know of it. Su Yun, who had entered the first layer of the void boundary, said as he observed his surroundings. The Sword Elder let out a long sigh. The Limitless Sword Sect only has 1 sect leader, 1 disciple, 1 master, and 1 disciple. Based on the extreme sword technique, the Limitless Sword Sect was a famous big sect. Who would have thought that it would end with me? I'm afraid that I met with a calamity that caused the Limitless Sword Sect's reputation to disappear. Do you remember when you were persecuted? Divine Martial Year 78. It is now the Divine Martial Year. Senior, it has been more than 3,000 years. Su Yun was surprised. Has it been 3,000 years? The Sword Elder sighed. Boom! A loud sound was heard. Su Yun's nerves tightened. He looked up and saw a huge sword falling from the sky, directly inserted into the ground in front of him. This huge sword was 100 meters high and 10 meters wide. Half of the sword was outside. The sword was not gorgeous, but there was a kind of oppressive aura seeping out. Su Yun was suspicious, but before he could think, he saw the spirit chi overflowing from the sword body, suddenly pouring out crazily. Like a dam releasing water, the spirit chi that was like a flood instantly drowned him, squeezing him and ravaging him. Kacha! The ground under Su Yun's feet instantly broke, and he almost knelt on the ground. But he clenched his teeth and withstood the sudden pressure of the sword. This is the first test. If you want to give up, then please tell me as soon as possible. Do not force yourself, because if you force yourself to fail, it will not harm your life, but it will ruin your talent. So you have to be careful. The Sword Elder's voice sounded in his mind. But in Su Yun's heart, how could he give up? He used all his strength to support the pressure of the sword and not let it crush him. The cracks on the ground became more and more severe. The surrounding stones also turned into powder. Su Yun's face was full of sweat, and his expression was extremely tense. Suddenly, a trace of doubt flashed through his mind. Why was the stone shattered and the earth split open, but he was still safe and sound? His cultivation was not high. Logically speaking, his body should have been injured under such pressure, right? Moreover, the Sword Elder had said that this test would not harm his life. It would only damage his talent. Damage his innate talent. Could it be that this was actually a mental attack? Su Yun was suspicious. If he wanted to resist the mental attack, he would need a set of moves that could calm his mind and focus. He took a deep breath, relying on his memory. He closed his eyes and silently recited the incantation. Once the spirit technique was used, as expected, Su Yun felt the sword pressure on his body instantly disappear without a trace. Crack! At this moment, the giant sword shattered into countless fragments that fell into the pitch-black sky before dissipating. That's it. The Sword Elder's surprised voice echoed in his mind. This floor is a test of the disciple's spirit by the ancestors. If one spirit is not strong enough, it should be impossible to easily pass this floor. This proves that my spirit is strong enough. Stop bragging. Tell me, kid, what method did you use? The Sword Elder seemed to be very interested. A set of spirit technique called 10 sentences of meditation. Using a spirit technique? This is not to say that it is impossible, But even if I use a spirit technique, it should not last long. Without a strong spirit, it is impossible to display the effects of a spirit technique. Well, you kid is not simple. Second floor, the land of ice. There was snow everywhere. It was as cold as the North and South Poles. Soo-Yun walked forward on foot. When he arrived in front of countless ice pillars that were shaped like swords, a whistling sound of sword wind suddenly blew. The sword wind was bone-chilling cold, as if it could freeze a person's bones and blood. The second floor's test is completely different from the first. You have to pay attention. The sword elder's voice sounded again. Indeed, it was different. This did not seem to be a spiritual attack, because Soo-Yun saw that his hands and feet were frozen purple. Although it was not life-threatening, it had already affected his body. There was no trick here. He could only rely on his willpower and toughness to resist. He settled his mind, clenched his teeth, endured all the pain, and endured the whistling sound of the sword wind. At first, the sword wind was like a breeze. Other than the bone-chilling cold, it was not a big deal. But as time passed, the sword wind became more and more powerful, more and more terrifying. It blew crazily, like a pair of big hands, pushing Soo-Yun. Soo-Yun stabilized his lower body, forced his whole body's spirit power to stabilize his mind, and refused to retreat even half a step. The sword wind strengthened again. This time, it was not as simple as pushing, but it became tearing. It was like countless claws of beasts tearing Soo-Yun, trying to tear him into pieces. Soo-Yun, who was holding on, let out a roar. His whole body was pushed to the limit. He did not have the slightest intention to retreat. Good. You have enough willpower. You must hold on. If you do not pass this test, you will not be able to learn the limitless sword arts. Not for me, not for the limitless sword sect, just for yourself. You must hold on. The sword elder shouted. Although he had experienced more than 10 geniuses, it was the first time he saw someone as tenacious as Soo-Yun. He hoped that the limitless sword sect would reappear in this continent. He did not want the powerful sword sect to be destroyed by his own hands. Compared to Soo-Yun, he was more eager for Soo-Yun to pass the test. The sword wind strengthened again. But at this moment, Soo-Yun had already exceeded his limit. He abandoned his mind, and there was only one thought in his mind. Hold on. He abandoned all distracting thoughts of retreating and held on regardless of the cost. In the end, the sword wind could not push him back even half a step and stopped. Everything returned to silence. Congratulations, kid. I hope that you can pass the test smoothly. The sword elder's joyful voice came out. I will pass. Soo-Yun exhaled. His voice was a little weak, but his tone was full of determination. He knew that his strength was weak, and there were many things he could not do. But when he decided to do it, he would do his best, use any means, and do whatever it takes. To put it bluntly, this was called overestimating one's capabilities. But for him, this was his own persistence, and he could not give up. The sword elder nodded in appreciation and did not speak again. After jumping over the ice sword forest, there was a shining yellow door. Walking in, they arrived at the third layer of the sword tomb. Third layer, Red Sun Sword Pond. It was not as quiet and cold as the previous 2 layers. Here it was extremely hot. There was magma everywhere, and the bubbling magma seemed to be able to burn people. However, there was something special here. Soo-Yun's feet only had a place to stand, and there was no road ahead. But in the magma 10 meters away, there was a fiery red, blazing sword. The sword was surrounded by magma, and the sword overflowed with a large amount of heat, like a dragon spinning around the sword. It was very magical, and 10 meters behind the sword, there was a door leading to the 4th layer. In front of the door stood a white-haired man with a sword sheath on his back. Do you want to pass the test and practice the limitless sword arts? The man looked at Soo-Yun and shouted. Who are you? Soo-Yun asked. This is the remnant of the limitless sword ancestor. The sword sheath on his back is the treasure, the limitless sword sheath. The sword elder was slightly excited. If you want to get the limitless sword sheath, you have to complete the 3rd layer test, pull out the Red Sun sword, and go to the 4th layer to fight with me. I will wait for you in the 4th layer. After that, The limitless sword ancestor turned and went straight into the door. When Su Yun heard this, his face slightly congealed. This place was not far. It was not difficult to jump to the other side, but to pull out the sword halfway, it was too difficult. Without a foothold, what should he do? The third level is no longer a test of endurance and tenacity. Instead, it's a test of whether the swordsman's heart and mind are one, whether his gaze is sharp enough, and whether his strength is crafty enough. All of these are related to the sword. If you decide to use the King of 100 Weapons as your weapon in the future, then you must know all of these things. Once you fall into the magma, your talent will be damaged, and you will automatically be separated from the sword tomb. How about it? Do you still want to continue? The sword elder said. However, Su Yun did not say anything. He stared at the red sun sword that was inserted in the magma. His eyes became more and more fierce, like a poisonous snake that was about to attack, staring at its prey. But at this time, Su Yun moved and leaped towards the scarlet sun sword. You are too impatient. You should slowly observe the movement of the magma. This magma will certainly make waves to stop you, AI. The sword elder noticed and sighed. He was very disappointed with Su Yun's impatience. Sure enough, at the moment when Su Yun moved, the bubbling magma suddenly set off a burst of hot magma waves, hitting Su Yun. But the height of the waves was not as high as Su Yun. He jumped high, but not far. Although he was not touched by the magma waves, the sword elder still did not have any hope. Jumping high was different from jumping far. Su Yun's high jump was doomed to not jump far. He was afraid that he would not be able to jump to the other side and would fall into the magma. But the result was beyond the sword elder's expectations. After Su Yun jumped high, he fell from the sky, straight into the magma, but when he was a few feet away from the magma, he suddenly stopped. The sword elder could feel Su Yun's movements. He actually stepped on the hilt of the red sun sword. Sure enough, you have some skills. But how are you going to pull out this sword? If you pull out the sword, you will have no place to stand. Su Yun held his breath and steadied his body. Standing on the sword hilt, he stared at the door of the fourth floor. Suddenly, he took a deep breath and gathered his profound spirit chi into his legs. Then, he leaped and leaped towards the door. As he flipped over, he spun 360 degrees. When his head was facing downwards, both of his hands reached out and grabbed the Crimson Sun sword. He pulled it out smoothly and jumped towards the door. Pudong! Su Yun directly fell to the ground. He looked embarrassed, but he smoothly passed the test. The sword elder was surprised. He never thought that Su Yun would have such a crafty technique and unique vision. The fourth floor, sword tomb. There were broken swords everywhere. They were slanted left and right above the withered ground. It was dark and lifeless. But among these broken swords, there was a white-haired man in white clothes. The man's eyebrows were like swords, and he was 8 feet tall. He was extraordinarily handsome. He carried a small sword sheath on his back. The sword sheath exuded a black and white gas. It was very magical. This was the limitless sword sheath, and the sword ancestor's remnant thought. The remnant will casually pulled out a broken sword from the ground and walked towards Su Yun. The sword pressure, the sword wind, and the sword cold instantly filled the entire sword tomb and surrounded Su Yun. Do I have to defeat the limitless sword ancestor's illusion? Su Yun's heart was under pressure. No, as long as you let him recognize you, you must use your full strength. Use the Red Sun sword to defeat him. Sword competition? Su Yun frowned. Since he was the sword ancestor, his sword technique had already transcended the mortal realm. He could only fight. Su Yun concentrated and stepped forward. If it was just a test, the illusion would not use a powerful sword technique to suppress him. If he went all out, he might be able to pass the test. After making up his mind, Su Yun's pace suddenly quickened. In his hand, the Crimson Sun sword was glowing red and was filled with profound spirit chi. Whoosh! An extremely simple chop flew over. Under the support of the profound spirit chi, it whistled through the air, and the imposing manner was great. But the next second, the illusion of the sword ancestor suddenly disappeared. Did it fail? Su Yun's heart sank. He hastily turned around and retreated. only to see the illusion suddenly appear on his right side. The illusion stepped forward, lifted the broken sword in his hand, and slashed straight towards Su Yun. The sword was as fast as the wind, but it also contained a strong spirit power. But this sword, the power, the movement, the angle, and so on, were exactly the same as Su Yun's. This was simply imitating his attack. Su Yun was caught off guard. The sword slashed his left shoulder. He hastily retreated as blood flowed out. The ancestor's illusion will not use a powerful sword technique to suppress you. He will only use your attack to defeat you. This is what it means to have no technique. If you want to defeat the ancestor, you have to defeat yourself. The sword elder's voice came out. If you eat 3 swords, it will be regarded as a failure. Cherish it, boy. Don't be defeated at the last moment. The sword elder shouted again, his voice somewhat anxious. But at the moment, Su Yun had no time to care. He no longer attacked, but chose to retreat. Since the opponent would imitate his attack, if he did not attack, what would the opponent do? Su Yun thought. At this time, the illusion suddenly lifted the broken sword in his hand and raised it high. At that moment, all the broken swords in the sword tomb trembled. Tens of thousands of swords screamed together. How magnificent was the scene! Boy, don't try to delay the time by not attacking. Because once you give up the attack, the ancestor's illusion will launch the limitless sword arts. You will not be able to avoid that attack. Once the sword art is successfully launched, you will lose. The sword elder seemed to see Su Yun's plan and quickly said. Su Yun's heart tightened a bit as he secretly thought. Suddenly, his mind moved. He took a few steps forward and rushed to attack again. When the illusion was about to be attacked by Su Yun, it disappeared again and immediately appeared in a favorable position to repeat Su Yun's attack. But this time, Su Yun suddenly turned his body and thrusted. The tip of the sword brushed past the broken sword and directly pierced into the body of the illusion. Poochie! The sword pierced through the flesh. What? The sword elder was surprised. When the illusion is about to attack, it will disappear and then appear again to imitate the attack. It can be said that when it imitates the attack, it is real. The attack will not disappear. So this is my only opportunity to attack. But how can I find this opportunity? It's very simple. I just need to make an attack that I know is a flaw and let it imitate it. Then I will attack this flaw. I can hit it. Su Yun's sword pierced the illusion and looked serious. He did not need to defeat himself, but he must leave a way out for himself. Good, good. Haha, boy, you are very good. This old man was lucky to pass this test. I did not expect you to see the weakness of the ancestor's illusion. Really amazing. The sword elder almost clapped his hands in approval. At this time, the illusion stopped its attack and stood in front of Su Yun. The broken sword in its hand was stabbed into the ground again. Although you do not have any sword arts, you have the wisdom, calmness, and tenacity that very few swordsmen have. This is rare and valuable. You are suitable to practice the sword and also worthy of the limitless sword sheath. You have completed my test, young man. After that, the illusion suddenly disappeared. A gray and slender sword sheath fell to the ground. Su Yun quickly walked over and picked up the sword sheath. Ha, good, good, that's great. Su Yun, boy, you really surprised me again and again. You have obtained the approval of the sword ancestor. Then, you are the new sect leader of the Limitless Sword Sect. The important task of revitalizing the Limitless Sword Sect will fall on your shoulders. The sword elder was very happy and laughed. I only said that I will learn the limitless sword arts, but I did not say that I will be the sect leader of the Limitless Sword Sect. Senior, this junior is afraid that I cannot take up the responsibility. Su Yun carried the sword sheath on his back and said softly, I know that you have something you want to do, but this important task, well, let's talk about it later. The sword elder did not seem to be in a hurry. He smiled and did not speak again. If I take away the limitless sword sheath, what will happen to the void boundary? Is there any meaning for it to exist? Of course there is. The void boundary is the test. The sword sheath is the reward or the token of the sect leader. When you decide to step down from the sect leader position and pass it on to someone else, You can choose to give the sword sheath to the person you want. That year, my master did not directly give the sword sheath to me. Instead, he placed it in the void boundary after I passed the test. I never understood the meaning of master, but now that I think about it, I finally understand. What do you mean? Do not forget your roots. Do not forget your roots. Yes, do not forget your roots. Because this void boundary is the foundation of the limitless sword sect. If I come here again, how could I not find the sword sheath? So that's how it is. Then where is Senior's master now? He died a long time ago, without understanding the Tao. He died of old age. But it's worth it. An old monster who has lived for tens of thousands of years. He has enjoyed everything in this world. 10,000 years. Su Yun was surprised. What about the sword ancestor? Where is he now? I don't know. Someone said that he died in the Demon Continent. Demon Continent? Su Yun's face slightly changed, but he did not ask again. He saw the surrounding environment suddenly distort, and then a burst of rich, profound spirit chi quickly dissipated, but in the blink of an eye, everything returned to the scene of the fallen tiger plain. Congratulations on passing the test. Now, you can practice according to the limitless sword arts. Now, all the sword arts have been shown. As long as you persevere, you will succeed. Okay, kid, I'm going to sleep. I am just a spirit, and I will return to the dust and return to the earth. After communicating with you for so long, I'm already weak. If I continue, I will be in danger of disappearing. Goodbye, kid. The sword elder said. When Su Yun heard this, his heart slightly moved. Yes, the sword elder was a spirit body. Communicating with people would consume spirit power. Once his spirit power was exhausted, he would be in danger of dying. However, in order to let himself obtain the limitless sword arts, he did not hold back. No matter what his purpose was, Su Yun's heart was extremely grateful. Immediately, he put the sword arts on the ground and respectfully kowtowed 3 times. Thank you, Senior, for your careful teaching. Please accept this junior's bow. The respectful voice rose. The sword elder was a little surprised, but after a moment, he happily nodded. Good, good, good. I did not expect that the sword elder, to be blind for a lifetime, would finally recognize it before I die. Worth it, huh? Chapter 9. The Limitless Sword Sect was proficient in the Imperial Sword technique and could control thousands of swords to attack the enemy. However, even the first sword of the Limitless Sword Arts was not easy to practice. To practice the first sword, the accuracy, smoothness, and speed of the sword had to be improved. It was necessary to practice the sword intent and achieve the first sword. Surprisingly, the function of the limitless sword sheath was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. This was not an ordinary sword sheath, but a huge sword space. The limitless sword sheath contained 108,000 swords, 105,000 child swords, 2,995 mother swords, and 5 peerless divine swords. If he could summon all the flying swords in the sword sheath, he could really dominate the world and become a sword master. However, these swords were not ordinary swords. To control them, one had to conquer them, and each sword was different. Only after Su Yun mastered the first sword of the limitless sword arts could he enter the sword sheath and conquer the divine swords. When he found the location of the spirit stallion, it was already dying. Carrying the sword sheath, he found some fodder to feed the spirit stallion. After resting for half an hour, he rode the horse away from the plains. He was still relatively familiar with the Sky Martial continent. In his mind, he had some survival skills. He had a good understanding of medicine and poison. If he left the Su family, he could survive outside. But he did not plan to leave the Su family for the time being. Not to mention that Qing heir was still in the Su family. The Su family's influence in the Julian district was far from what other forces could compare to. Furthermore, the Su family's unique training conditions were not something that could be found elsewhere. After the spirit stallion ate, it regained its strength and ran faster like the wind. Su Yun's bag was full of everlasting tiger materials. If these things were sold outside the Su family, it would definitely attract the attention of the Su family. The everlasting tiger was not something that an ordinary person could deal with. He was just a waste. How could he obtain the parts of the everlasting tiger? Therefore, he deliberately took a detour and ran towards the Sioux family's Mirror Lake town. The town near the Mirror Lake was famous for its fish and rice. In addition, the Mirror Lake town was beautiful. It was close to the Sioux family and the Immortal Sword sect, so it would not be disturbed by the demons. Therefore, there were many people who came here to play or stay. The town was very lively. The mayor was elected by the commoners. There were quite a few countries on the Marshall Heaven continent, but there were also many towns without a country. But those towns were usually attached to certain powers or sects, seeking protection so that they wouldn't be swallowed up by other powers. Mirror Lake Town was a small town attached to the Immortal Sword sect. Every year, every household in Mirror Lake Town would pay taxes to the Immortal Sword sect. However, the Immortal Sword sect would not take advantage of the common people. The taxes were not high and were only symbolic. Whenever Mirror Lake Town was in danger, the Immortal Sword sect would do their best to help. Therefore, in the hearts of the common people in Mirror Lake Town, the Immortal Sword sect was their patron saint. Many disciples of the Immortal Sword sect came to the town to spend money. Whether it was buying goods or eating, the common people would not charge any fees. Pulling the spirit stallion into the town, Su-Yun followed the flow of people to the center of the town, where the largest auction house was located. Mirror Lake Town was very developed. There were many famous special forces in the continent, such as the most famous weapon shop, 100 Marshall Weapon, the largest pharmacy, Blossom Heart Valley Pharmacy, and the largest auction house, Sky Sun Auction House. Su-Yun's destination was this Sky Sun Auction House. The reason was that they would strictly keep the information of every guest confidential, no matter how precious the guest's item was. The world was dangerous, and the absolute tiger material was extraordinary. Once it attracted attention, it would cause trouble. The Sky Sun Auction House branch was located in the center of Mirror Lake Town. It was a prime location with a large flow of people. There were many young disciples of the Immortal Sword sect here. Of course, there were even more spirit cultivators from all over the place. The Sky Sun Auction House counter was blocked by a screen. It was equivalent to a private room. When Su-Yun walked in, the service staff was already waiting there. "How can I help you?" the sweet-looking service staff said with a smile. Su-Yun took out the absolute tiger claws, absolute tiger skin, and other parts and placed them on the table one by one. Spirit Core Disciple Level 1 Absolute Tiger for tiger claws, tiger skin, tiger eyes. The service staff patiently counted. Her face did not show much surprise. They were engaged in this job and had seen many treasures. Although the absolute tiger was incomparably strong for Su-Yun, it was not the first time she saw it. The only thing that surprised her was that Su-Yun's strength was not high, but he was able to get the parts of the absolute tiger. "Would you like to put this on the auction house or directly sell at the auction house's lowest price?" After counting, the service staff asked with a smile. "I'll change it all to spirit coins." Right now, he was penniless and in urgent need of money. The auction would take a long time. "No problem. Please wait a moment." The service staff took out a price list book and flipped to the Fallen Tiger Plains column. She looked for the absolute tiger's information. Every part of the absolute tiger's body was marked with a price, and according to this price, she gave Su-Yun spirit coins. After the calculation, you can get a total of 9,416 spirit coins. "Are you satisfied with this price?" "Yes, I believe at the auction house we'll only get 10,000 spirit coins." "That's it." "Well, please wait a moment. I'll get the money for you." After a moment, the service staff took out a spirit coin card and handed it to Su-Yun. Su-Yun checked the card and found that it was exactly 9,416 spirit coins. Su-Yun instantly became rich. With a slightly happy mood, he walked out of the small room. But when he was about to leave the auction house, the auction hall burst of noise attracted Su-Yun's attention. Looking at the center of the hall, Su-Yun saw a lot of tasks. A lot of spirit cultivators were circling around these tasks. Many people went to the Sky Sun Auction House to buy items that were not available in the auction house. The auction house would put up a task for some people with good strength and means to get a treasure to complete. Su-Yun casually glanced at the task board. Suddenly, a familiar name came into his eyes. Crescent moon fruit? This was a kind of strange fruit that could enhance one's cultivation. It was located in the Crescent Valley, but it was very rare. It was not easy to find. In addition, the Crescent Valley was extremely dangerous. A large number of spirit cultivators who went to the Crescent Valley strangely disappeared in the valley. It was reported that they died in the mouth of fierce beasts. This task was placed at the highest point. The reward was as high as 60,000 spirit coins. It was almost enough for an ordinary person to live a carefree life. Although the price was high enough, no one dared to accept this task. So far, the number of people who accepted this task was still 0. Suyin thought for a moment. His heart slightly moved, and he walked over. People automatically separated and stared at the young man. Boy, do you want to die? This task is high enough, but it is very dangerous. Don't throw your life away for money. Hey, you probably don't know about the Crescent Valley. Let me tell you, last month, there were a few 5th stage spirit intermediate disciples who went to the Crescent Valley to look for treasures. The result is that they have not come back yet. I guess they most likely died inside. The people next to him shouted. Many people despised Su Yun for overestimating himself, but it was useless. After paying 50 spirit coins as a deposit, he accepted the task and turned to leave. Chapter 10. Su Yun's rebirth was too sudden. He did not have many ideas in his mind, so he had to redesign his plans. What he needed to do now was to enhance his strength. The crescent moon fruit produced in the Crescent Moon Valley was not simple. It was said that eating this fruit could greatly increase one's cultivation without any side effects. Even a beginner spirit cultivator could digest it. Although the crescent moon fruit was good, it was not easy to obtain. The Crescent Moon Valley was mysterious and dangerous. Countless people entered the Crescent Moon Valley to explore, but none of them returned. Suyin did not know what happened to them, but he was not unfamiliar with the Crescent Moon Valley. He also knew several places where the crescent moon fruit grew. As long as I get rid of the guardian beast, I can easily obtain the fruit. With the fruit, I will be able to break through to the spirit intermediate realm. It will be of great help. Suyin said to himself. After thinking for a moment, he went to the side of the shop. Shopkeeper, give me 2 bottles of Goot de Fierce Bee skin powder. Suyin shouted at the people in the shop. Yes, guest. I will prepare it for you immediately. An old man in his 60s shouted and hurriedly went to prepare. Goot de Fierce Beast was a high-level fierce beast. Its strength was 1 level higher than the everlasting tiger. It was a level 2 spirit core disciple beast. Every part of its body was very valuable. In a small town like Mirror Lake Town, there were only a few Goot de Fierce Beasts that could be sold. Most of the Goot de Fierce Beasts were hunted by the Immortal Sword sect. Of course, the strength of the beast was high, so the price was also high. Although it was only a little powder, it still cost Su Yin 2,000 spirit coins. A bottle of amassing spirit pill, 3 boxes of condensing ointment, an invisibility talisman, a bottle of concealing breath powder, and a small storage ring. Suyin called out the items he needed one by one. The shopkeeper quickly prepared the items and paid for them. Now, he only had 3,354 spirit coins left. These items were actually available in the Sky Sun auction house, but they were not high-level items. It was more cost-effective to go to the small shop next door to buy them. After stuffing the items into the small storage ring, Su Yin rode his spirit stallion and went straight to the Crescent Moon Valley. The Crescent Moon Valley was a distance away from Mirror Lake Town. With the speed of the spirit stallion, it would take about a day and a half to arrive. Of course, the most powerful treasure in the Crescent Valley was not the crescent moon fruit, but the heavenly crystal that was left behind by an unknown person. Many people did not know what the heavenly crystal was, but the rumors about it were extremely fierce. Although he said he was looking for the crescent moon fruit, in fact, Suyin also wanted to test his luck to see if he could find the heavenly crystal. If he could obtain the heavenly crystal, then it would be immeasurable for the entire plan. It was rumored that the heavenly crystal was incomparably heaven-defying, but its grade was unknown. If one was able to obtain it, they would have the ability to overturn the clouds and rain. Initially, he wanted to use it to avenge Qing Air, But after searching for a few days in the Crescent Valley, he found nothing and almost lost his life. A day and a half later, they arrived at the entrance of the valley without any problems. The entrance of the valley was quiet and dense with vegetation. Only the sounds of birds and beasts could be heard. Hopping off the horse, he took out some breath-concealing powder and smeared it evenly on his clothes before entering. The aura-concealing powder could shield the smell emitted by the user and not attract the attention of the dire beasts in the valley. Of course, the effect on high-level dire beasts would not be too obvious. Suyin took out his rusted sword and quickly followed the route in his mind. After walking for a stick of time, there were 5 forks in front of him. He chose the one on the far right and continued to move forward. Soon, he arrived at an open space. There were a lot of vegetation growing in this open space. In the middle of the vegetation, there was a huge tree. The tree was nearly 20 meters high, with lush branches and leaves. The leaves were fiery red. If the wind blew, it would look like a burning fire from afar. On the top of the tree, there was only a fist-sized fruit. That was the crescent moon fruit. A tree could only bear one fruit. If the fruit was picked, the tree would wither in a few days. It would take 100 years for another fruit to grow. However, picking the fruit was not easy, because around the crescent moon fruit tree, there were usually terrifying jade fire beasts. The jade fire beasts waited for the fruit to mature and eat it. Then, they would advance into a higher-level dire beast, the jade fire beast. Therefore, to get the crescent moon fruit tree, most people had to defeat the spirit core disciple jade fire beast. Many people were killed by this jade fire beast. Su Yun locked the crescent moon fruit tree and immediately took out the prepared Gouda fierce bee skin powder and scattered it in the air. The powder was blown by the wind towards the fruit tree and quickly spread. After a few seconds, roar! A horrified roar sounded, and then the earth shook slightly. A burst of heavy footsteps sounded. Su Yun could see a lion-sized fiery beast fleeing in panic. Even the jade fire beast was afraid of something. Gouda, a ferocious beast that loved to eat jade fire beasts, was its nemesis. Just a little bit of its aura was enough to scare the jade fire beast away. Although the jade fire beast was scared away, once the chi of the Gouda fierce beast dissipated, it would immediately return. Time was of the essence. Suyin did not dare to be negligent. He ran over and climbed up the tree. He carefully plucked the fiery red fruit. The fruit was slightly hot and exuded a charming fragrance. Suyin swallowed his saliva, jumped down the tree, and quickly left. After the fruit was picked, it was eaten within an hour to maximize the absorption of the fruit. Suyin found a safe place and started to chew on the fruit. As soon as the fruit entered his stomach, Su Yun's chest immediately became hot, as if a fire had been ignited. He quickly sat down cross-legged to recuperate. Suddenly, he felt countless spirit aura bursting out from his body. Su Yun was startled. He quickly checked and found out that his own profound spirit chi spirit essence had actually doubled. A person's tendons, blood vessels, and other places where the spirit aura flowed all had spirit essences. The number of spirit essences determined the amount of spirit aura and its recovery speed. A 6-stage spirit novice cultivator only had about 40 spirit essences. However, Su Yin now had a total of 110 spirit essences. His cultivation had directly jumped to the peak of the 7th stage spirit novice realm. He was not far from breaking through. Su Yin was overjoyed. His heart was unprecedentedly excited. Finally, 7th stage spirit novice realm. Finally, 7th stage spirit novice realm. He murmured. His whole body was trembling. Many years of yearning had finally come true today. Unfortunately, each person could only take one crescent moon fruit. Otherwise, Su Yin would have eaten all of the fruits here. Following the same pattern, Su Yin found a second crescent moon fruit tree. He once again used a bottle of Gouda fierce beast powder and obtained a crescent moon fruit. This was used to submit the task. Su Yin wanted to get a few more to sell, but he only remembered 3 locations. These 2 were relatively easy to obtain, but the 3rd location was too dangerous and difficult to obtain. After obtaining the fruit, Su Yin did not hurry to leave Crescent Valley. Instead, he continued to go deeper into the valley. The next step was to find the heavenly crystal. Roar! At this time, a low roar suddenly came from the front. Chapter 11. Su Yun's face turned serious as he looked ahead. Not far away, there was a steel-armored leopard with 2 horns on its head and skin like iron. Iron-armored leopard. First stage spirit intermediate disciple. Amazing speed, strong defense. If one does not know its weakness, this kind of fierce beast can kill any cultivator below the first stage spirit intermediate disciple without any injury. Su Yun's heart sank. He pulled out his rusted sword but did not retreat. The difference between the two was more than 4 stages. Although he was very familiar with the iron-armored leopard, it was all from books and other people's oral accounts. He had almost no real combat experience. Even in his previous life, he rarely fought with fierce beasts. Facing it head-on would only lead to death. He secretly looked around and thought for a while. Suddenly, he turned around and ran. Roar! The iron-armored leopard saw that its prey wanted to escape, so it immediately chased. Its speed was as fast as the wind and instantly shortened the gap with Su Yun. Su Yun ran a few steps, and with a leap, he stepped on the side of the valley wall. He climbed up and sprinted to a height of nearly 5 meters. Then, with his sharp eyes and quick hands, he grabbed a protruding rock and hung himself in the air. The iron-armored leopard jumped high, but it only reached a height of less than 4 meters before falling down. Roar! The iron-armored leopard circled below and roared. Its eyes were full of unwillingness. It did not have any long-range means, so it could only watch. Although its 4 limbs were well-developed and its iron defense was amazing, its body was very heavy. It could still run at high speed, but if it wanted to jump, it would be very difficult. However, this iron-armored leopard did not seem to want to give up. It began to retreat until a certain distance. Its eyes stared at Su Yun, and with a low growl, it moved its 4 limbs and sprinted again. It seemed that it wanted to imitate Su Yun and use the run-up method to climb up the valley wall and pull Su Yun down. But if it did so, it would be a trap. He stared at the iron-armored leopard that began to sprint. His nerves were tense. His rusted sword was tightly grasped in his right hand. His eyes slightly squinted and looked at the iron-armored leopard's forehead. There was a thin crack the length of a finger. The color of the crack was dark yellow, which was slightly different from the iron-colored skin. This was the iron-armored leopard's fatal weakness. There was almost no defense here. This kind of sprint, the iron-armored leopard would not be able to attack because its center of gravity was used for the sprint in its mouth. When the height was reached, it would open its mouth and bite. If Su Yun wanted to make a move, he had to do it before the steel-armored leopard attacked. His eyes were solemn, and he did not dare to slack off in the slightest. There was only one chance. The moment the armored leopard rushed up the wall of the valley, before the leopard could open its mouth, he let go of his hand and fell down. At the same time, he held the rusted sword and fiercely stabbed at the weak point. Ah! Su Yun growled. His aura erupted as he poured all of his profound spirit chi into the rusty iron sword. Poochie! The rusted sword pierced through. Roar! The armored panther immediately let out a pained roar. Its attack was interrupted, and its entire body fell from the sky. Su Yun seized the opportunity to exert his strength, and the rusted sword pierced through his brain. The armored panther didn't have long to live. But the first stage of the spirit intermediate disciple realm was much stronger than him. Once it landed, the steel-armored leopard struggled and fiercely clawed at Su Yun. Su Yun was shocked and hurriedly pulled out the rusted sword and retreated. But in the end, he was a step too late. His chest was hit and a claw mark appeared. Blood flowed out. The steel-armored leopard forced Su Yun to retreat and no longer fought to the death. Instead, it used all of its strength to escape. Su Yun wanted to chase, but his speed was not as fast as the leopard, so he had to give up. Although he killed the steel-armored leopard, Su Yun did not gain any advantage. Instead, he suffered a loss. In the end, his combat experience was not rich enough. He took out a box of quick healing ointment and applied it to his chest. The wound on his chest immediately began to heal, and the blood stopped flowing. After tidying up a bit, he continued to slowly move forward. Along the way, he encountered a lot of powerful beasts. If he could run, then he would run. If he could not run, then he could only think of a way to force the beast to retreat. The only way to save his life was to buy an invisible talisman. This talisman could only be used once every 10 days, so it was useless to buy more. After using it, he would only be invisible for 10 seconds. In this way, he carefully wandered around the valley for 2 days, but still did not see any trace of the heavenly crystal. The quick healing ointment and the spirit pill were almost used up. If he continued, it would be very dangerous. In desperation, Su Yun had to consider retreating. Looking at the foggy valley in front of him, Su Yun sighed and turned to leave. Suddenly, bursts of footsteps came from the valley. He was slightly surprised and listened for a moment. Yes, it was the sound of footsteps, and there seemed to be a faint sound of conversation and laughter. Was there anyone else in this place? Su Yun was suspicious and immediately scurried to a strange rock not far from him and carefully hid himself. To be able to hear the other person's voice, it proved that they were not far away. Since they did not find him, it meant that their strength was not too high. They should be spirit novice or spirit intermediate disciples. As the footsteps approached, Su Yun quietly peeked his head out. He saw a group of people wearing dark yellow armor and holding huge swords in their hands coming out from the deep valley. These people were using spirit weapons, all of which were at the green level. It was very luxurious. The weapons contained a strong spirit power, and with the spirit power in their body, they could cause a lot of damage. Ha ha ha. I did not expect the trap to catch some prey. This time, let's see if there is a female spirit cultivator. If there is, then I will take the first prize. What do you think? A burly man with a robust body and a profound cultivation base laughed heartily. Since the black armored boss has spoken, how can the brothers oppose? You can choose first. Hey, if there's a white-skinned male spirit cultivator, don't try to steal it from me. A skinny man with sunken eyes licked his chapped lips and said with a wretched smile, "Go to hell. We don't have that kind of taste. You take your time to pick. Anyway, we're going to give it to the sect leader to cultivate. We could do whatever we want. I haven't had prey in a long time. I feel uncomfortable. Hurry up. Don't let those guys get out of the trap." The black armored boss shouted. Everyone shouted and quickened their pace. Prey? Trap? Su Yun was suspicious. Where did these guys come from? Are there people living in the Crescent Valley? This kind of ghost place, I am afraid that even spirit cultivators would not come here. Perhaps I can find the whereabouts of the heavenly crystal from these strange guys. Su Yun thought for a moment and quietly followed. These people seem to be very familiar with this place. They easily avoided the area of activity of the beasts and came to the center of the valley. In the center of the valley, a large amount of black light bloomed. A huge chi cover surrounded the area. Su Yun was surprised. He hid to the side and looked in front of him. He saw those people standing in front of the black light. The black armored boss closed his eyes and muttered a few incantations. The black light cover cracked open and a group of people smiled and walked in. Inside the black light cover, there was a group of young men and women. There were about 20 people. Everyone was wearing the same red and white Blade Master clothes. On their waists hung a jade-colored token. Everyone was equipped with a long sword. These were the disciples of the Immortal Sword Sect. Chapter 12. These Immortal Sword Sect disciples were being eroded by the strange black light barrier. Inside the barrier, there was a constant flow of demonic black gas. This gas was frantically robbing their spirit power. As time passed, their strength became weaker and weaker. It was impossible to break through the black light barrier. The group of people were trapped here. So many people? I didn't expect. This time he actually caught a big fish. The black armored leader's eyes released a greedy look. He glanced at each and every Immortal Sword Sect disciple. Finally, his eyes stopped on a few beautiful female disciples. Looking at the beautiful female disciples, the black armored leader's saliva dripped down. So many prey. Sect Master will definitely reward us handsomely. We've made fortune. This is a big harvest. Everyone shouted. Seeing this group of people were so unkind, the immortal sword sect disciples who were sitting cross-legged on the ground stood up. They pulled out their swords and stared at the group of people. "Who are you?" the leader of the group asked. "That's not important." The black armored leader laughed. "I'll give you a piece of advice. As long as you don't resist, you can live. If you resist, you won't live long. Hee hee. Do you know who we are?" The elder disciple snorted. The black armored leader was surprised. "Who?" "We are immortal sword sect disciples. We are here to find the crescent moon fruit. If you dare to touch us, you will be hunted down by the immortal sword sect." Not waiting for the elder disciple to speak, the younger disciple next to him arrogantly shouted. But in the next second, a black tiger-headed blade slashed towards him. The blade was brimming with profound spirit chi, and in a flash he was cut in half. Poochie! The blade fell, and he died. Blood and guts spilled all over the ground. "Ah!" The people screamed in horror. "Brother Lu!" All the disciples were pale. The female disciples retreated with their eyes wide open. "You!" The elder disciple was startled. He immediately looked at the group of evil people in fear. "What is the immortal sword sect?" The black armored leader sneered. "We, the demon religion sect, are not afraid. Obediently follow us. This black barrier has already absorbed your profound spirit chi. Your current strength is only at the 5th stage of the spirit novice realm. You are not our opponent. This is the consequence." The older disciple's face was gloomy. No one thought that in this extremely dangerous Crescent Valley, there would be a demon cult. Moreover, the cult's members were extremely vicious. Demon religion? Don't tell me that the spirit cultivators who came here to search for the crescent moon fruit were all persecuted by you guys? A female disciple suddenly asked. "Ha ha, not bad. Our leader cultivates the devil art and requires a large number of living spirit cultivators as sacrifices. Therefore, we also release the news of the heavenly crystal to attract a large number of spirit cultivators to come here to search for treasures. Although the crescent moon fruit was good, it only attracted low-level spirit cultivators. On the other hand, the heavenly crystal could attract strong spirit cultivators. Because of the heavenly crystal, we have been able to catch a lot of big fishes. Our leader's devil art is almost complete. Once our leader's cultivation is complete, it will be time for our demon religion sect to unify the continent, huh?" The black armored leader arrogantly laughed, as if he was already thinking about the days to come, when the leader would eat and drink. "So the heavenly crystal was just a scam. You deliberately put out a bait. Scam? No. This is not a scam. Our demon religion sect does have the heavenly crystal, and it is in the hands of our leader. With the heavenly crystal in our hands, why would the demon religion sect be afraid of your immortal sword sect? Not to mention, if we kill you here, the immortal sword sect will only think that you encountered a powerful beast. No one will think of the existence of the demon religion sect. So, just give up and follow us. You might be able to live. If the offerings aren't suitable, the sect master will spare your lives." The black armored leader smiled and tempted them. However, even a fool would understand that this was a lie. Even if the sacrifice was not suitable, the demon religion sect must ensure that their existence would not be exposed. "You guys, hateful, let's fight them. Either way, we will die." "That's right, Brother Mu, let's fight them." The young, hot-blooded men and women could not bear the humiliation and shouted one by one. The demon religion sect's disciples frowned. If the other side refused to cooperate, then it would be a little troublesome. After all, the other side was still a 5th-stage spirit novice disciple. "It seems that you will not accept a toast, only to be forced to drink a forfeit." The black-armored leader coldly snorted, then raised his tiger blade, intending to kill another person as a warning. Seeing this, Brother Mu could not bear it anymore. "Fight!" He only heard him growl and directly raised his sword to meet the attack. Courting death, the black-armored leader was extremely angry. His spirit power burst out as he fiercely slashed forward. The blade and the sword collided. The surging spirit power on the blade was like a river pressing down on the tip of the sword. Disciple Mu's spirit power was weak, so he simply could not withstand the blow. His sword was shaken, and one of his arms was directly cut off, causing blood to spurt out. With his strength weakened by the black barrier, how could he be a match for the black-armored leader? Brother! The other disciples cried out in sorrow as they rushed forward and surrounded Brother Mu. Who the fuck dares to mess around? I will send him to hell. The black-armored leader roared. Everyone was frightened out of their wits. Some of the hot-blooded youths saw this, and their resistance immediately subsided. Only a few of the hot-blooded youths still fiercely stared at the demon religion's sex disciples. These disciples were not strong, but under the effect of the black barrier, the immortal sword sex disciples were even weaker. They were only slightly stronger than ordinary people. How could these disciples not be able to deal with them? The immortal sword sect disciples were completely desperate. Many of them did not know whether to obey or to resist. Kacha! At this moment, a light sound came from the side of the black barrier. It was very harsh. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound. They saw a young man wearing plain clothes, carrying a sword sheath, and carrying a rusted sword. His eyes were vigilant as he stared at the black-armored leader, but his pace was steady as he quickly walked towards the black barrier. Facing all of this, the young man was surprisingly calm. No joy, no sadness, no shock, no fear. He seemed to only have one goal. It was the position next to the black barrier. It's a spirit cultivator. Another prey. His strength seems to be very low. One more is one more. Isn't this good? The black-armored leader laughed and then shouted, Wild Dog, you go and bring him. The rest of you take these immortal sword sect guests back to the sect. If anyone resists, kill them. Yes. After that, the 7 or 8 disciples began to move. You don't come near me. A female disciple trembled as she looked at the black-armored leader. Smelly girl, hurry up and come with me. I promise you that I will make you wish you were dead. The black-armored leader grabbed the female disciple's wrist and said with a smile, Let her go. A male disciple roared. But in the next second, he was kicked to the ground by the black-armored leader, causing him to vomit blood. A group of useless people dare to resist me? This black barrier is a treasure given to us by the sect leader. It is specifically used to deal with spirit cultivators. In here, none of you can defeat us. The black-armored leader said disdainfully, then pulled the female disciple directly out of the black barrier. The scene immediately became chaotic. The other disciple, called Wild Dog, was also walking toward Su Yun. Hey, smelly boy, hurry up and come over here, or I will kill you. Wild Dog raised his big hammer and shouted loudly at Su Yun. Chapter 13. Su Yun turned a deaf ear to him. Instead, he sped up his pace and approached the south side of the black barrier. You dare to ignore me? Are you tired of living? I will break your legs now. The Wild Dog was furious. He channeled his spirit power and rushed forward. His speed was extremely fast and his face was fierce. Su Yun suddenly stopped. His breathing stabilized. Without saying a word, he lifted his rusted sword and pierced it into the black barrier. The sword pierced into the black barrier, causing countless ripples. Then, an amazing scene appeared. This ordinary rusted sword actually pierced through the blacklight shield. Then, the entire barrier shattered. The spirit power that was absorbed crazily poured out like a broken water jar. All the disciples of the immortal sword sect stared at the scene in shock. The spirit power that belonged to them flew towards them. They hastily channeled their power and instantly absorbed it. What? The black-armored leader's eyes widened. He was shocked and frightened. This sudden change left everyone unable to react in time. What is going on? The black barrier was actually broken. Kid, who are you? The black-armored leader roared. Although the black barrier was mysterious, it was not a magic treasure. It was an array. Since it was an array, it had an array eye. Finding the eye of the array eye, it was easy to break. Su Yun put away his rusted sword and looked at the demon religion disciples. He was hiding in the dark and did not move. He was observing the black barrier. He knew a little about arrays. This was not a high-level array. After all, It was used by the black armored leader. Presumably, it would not be a high-level array. Kill. Kill him for me. Wild dog, kill him for me. The black armored leader was completely enraged. His roar did not stop, but in the next second, he was surrounded by several sword shadows. The black armored leader was shocked. He hastily dodged and rolled away. He looked around and saw that the immortal sword sect disciples had already begun to attack. One by one, they pulled out their swords and rushed forward. The black barrier only took away their spirit power. Now that it was destroyed, their spirit power returned and their strength was restored. With more than 20 people against 7 or 8 disciples, what was there to be afraid of? Kill these bastards and avenge junior brother Lu and senior brother Mu. A disciple shouted with red eyes. Kill! Everyone roared. Seeing that the situation was not right, the black boss's face suddenly turned pale and he hurriedly shouted, Retreat! Retreat! The demon religion sect disciples quickly fled, but before they could get far, they were overtaken by the angry, immortal sword sect disciples. Apart from the black boss, who had been captured, the others had all been killed. The situation had been completely reversed. The disciples escorted Boss He over. Bring him over and sacrifice his soul to junior brother Lu. Make him kneel before junior brother Lu's corpse. Cut off his head. The disciples of the immortal sword sect shouted. At this moment, the black boss was completely scared out of his wits, constantly kowtowing and begging for mercy, but to no avail. Previously, the black armored leader had humiliated these proud and arrogant immortal sword sect disciples. So what was the point of begging for mercy? One of the disciples had already raised the sword in his hand, the tip of the sword aimed at the black-clad leader's neck, ready to slash at him. Everyone, there is no need to rush to kill him. There is no point in killing him. Su Yun, who was at the side, saw this and quickly walked over. Only then did everyone focus their attention on Su Yun. When the disciple heard this, he looked at Su Yun and stopped his hand. Thank you, Senior. This time, if Senior did not help us break the black barrier, I am afraid that all of us would have died in the hands of the demon religion sect. Senior Mu, who was being supported by a disciple, came over and bowed to Su Yun. No need to be polite. These evil cultivators, everyone has the right to punish them. All of you are the elites of the immortal sword sect, but you were plotted against by these villains. I just happened to pass by. How could I not help? Su Yun said. Elites? These words made the hearts of the disciples feel a lot better. They also had a good impression of Su Yun. Senior's chivalrous heart is really a role model for us. Don't call me Senior. I am just a spirit intermediate disciple. Just call me Limitless Sword God. Su Yun lied. Not yet a spirit intermediate disciple? Everyone was shocked. He was only a spirit novice disciple, yet he dared to come to Crescent Valley alone. Wasn't this courting death? However, seeing how easily Su Yun broke the black barrier, he knew that his methods were not ordinary. Because of this, no one dared to underestimate him. Brother Limitless, why don't you let us kill him? This kind of villain, death is not enough. The female disciple who was previously grabbed by the black armored leader fiercely glared at the black armored leader and immediately asked, Yes, we should immediately cut him into 1,000 pieces. Cutting him into 1,000 pieces is not enough. This bastard, I don't know how many people he has harmed. The disciples of the immortal sword sect were all filled with righteous indignation. The black armored leader who was kneeling on the ground was trembling in fear. Su Yun nodded. Everyone is right. This kind of person should be killed. However, if we kill him now, then the clues will be broken. The demon religion sect hidden in Crescent Valley will also be difficult to find. I think we should temporarily keep his life. Everyone, immediately inform the immortal sword sect and let them quickly come here and eliminate the demon religion sect. I can't let the demon religion sect continue to exist in this world to do evil. We must cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Brother Limitless is right. We should immediately inform the elders of the sect. We should quickly leave Crescent Valley and return to the sect to report this matter. Moreover, Senior Mu also needs treatment. We must leave here. Go, go, go. The disciples began to clamor and then made a decision. They did not want to stay in this ghost place for even a moment longer. Su-yin heard this and hastily said, "Wait, Brother Limitless, do you have anything else to say?" Senior Mu asked. "If you just leave like this, then you will be exposed." "Exposed?" "Yes." Su-yin nodded. "This group of bandits is dead, and only one of them is left. If this group of bandits disappear, the demon religion sect's leader will be suspicious. I'm afraid that when the time comes, the Immortal Sword sect will not arrive and the demon religion sect will leave Crescent Valley. Once the demon religion sect people escape, it will be a threat to the entire continent." After he said this, everyone began to ponder. Brother Limitless is right. Fellow brothers and sisters, we cannot just leave like this. The female disciple from before blushed as she looked at Su-yin and then agreed. "But if we don't leave now, do you want us to eliminate the demon religion sect?" "We can't do that. Since Brother Limitless has such considerations, I am afraid there is a way." "I don't know what Brother Limitless is planning to do." "A way? In fact, it is very simple. We only need a few people to report, and the rest will infiltrate the demon religion sect and stabilize the situation." Infiltrate the demon religion sect? Everyone was shocked. "Isn't this courting death?" "This is not necessarily courting death." Su-yin looked at the black-clad leader on the ground and saw him quietly raise his eyes. He secretly looked at everyone and then pulled the injured Senior Mu to the side. "Brother Mu, I heard that your Immortal Sword sect has a sword technique called Sword Void. It uses the void as a form and the sword as a guide. It uses spirit chi to arrange on the surface of a human body to achieve the effect of camouflage. Is that right?" Senior Mu was shocked. "Who is Brother Limitless? How do you know our Immortal Sword sect's sword technique?" "Haha, I have a friend in the Immortal Sword sect." Su-yin laughed and walked over. Senior Mu heard this and dispelled his concerns. "We are all inner disciples, so naturally, we learned this sword void." "Very good." Su-yin nodded. "We will use this technique to disguise ourselves and go to the demon religion sect. This kind of inferior technique will certainly be seen through by the demon religion sect leader." "Not good, not good." Senior Mu's eyes widened and then hurriedly shook his head. "Although these thieves are stronger than me, they're only in the spirit intermediate realm. They should be a group of inferior disciples in the demon religion sect. If we sneak in, we won't be able to meet any experts. We will not be seen through. Brother Mu, rest assured." "But, Brother Mu, have you forgotten the rules of the Immortal Sword sect? This is a blessing for the common people. A blessing for the common people. Moreover, once we successfully exterminate the demon religion sect, you will inevitably be heavily rewarded by the sect. I am afraid that you will have an endless supply of powerful medicinal pills. Moreover, you will also become famous and be praised by the common people." Su-yin said. Hearing the reward, Senior Mu was immediately tempted. What blessing for the common people! He simply did not care. He only cared about the benefits. The original intention of the cultivators was to benefit themselves. This was an opportunity. Most cultivators would cherish it even if it was risky. "Good. I agree with your idea." Finally, Senior Mu made a decision. Su-yin nodded. "You communicate with your people. You're injured and cannot go. In addition to me, find another 7 people. I will go communicate with the thief and let him lead the way. Find the demon religion sect headquarters. That thief should be killed." Senior Mu was not at ease. He clutched his broken arm and said with a murderous look in his eyes, "But now is not the time." With that, Su-yin walked towards the black-armored leader. Chapter 14. The black-armored leader's spirit power was sealed. Su-yin pulled him to the side. "Do you want to live?" "Yes. I beg you, please spare my life." The black-armored leader seemed to be grasping at straws as he wailed. "I can spare your life, but I am willing to lead the way. I am willing to lead the way and let you find the demon religion sect." The black-armored leader seemed to have guessed Su-yun's intention. He did not wait for him to finish and shouted. But in the next second, he was kicked to the ground by Su-yun. He stepped on the black-armored leader's head and whispered, "Lead the way. This is what you have to do. But in addition, I have something else to ask you. You must answer me honestly. Please, please speak, my lord. The black-clad boss didn't dare to hesitate as he hurriedly shouted. Suyin lowered his voice. The heavenly crystal. In whose hands? Heavenly. Heavenly crystal? Yes. Who has the heavenly crystal? Suyin pulled out the rusted sword and pointed it at the black-armored leader's forehead. The black-armored leader was scared and pale. He could not speak clearly. It is in the hands of the leader. Does the leader carry it with him? Yes. When will he not carry it? This. I don't know. Pucci. The sword pierced a little. Blood spilled out, and the pain was very obvious. The black-armored leader did not dare to move. Once he moved, the sword would pierce his head. He could only scream. The immortal sword sect disciple was puzzled. You really don't know? Suyin asked uncertainly. Little really doesn't know. Master, please forgive this little one. The black-armored leader almost cried. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something and hurriedly said, I know. I remember the leader may not wear that thing at that time. Certainly not wear it. When the leader's wife is being pampered. Oh, that's at night? Not necessarily. The leader and the leader's wife. Usually in the early morning. Good mood. Suyin thought for a moment, then put away his sword and turned to the immortal sword sect disciples. What are you interrogating him about? Senior Brother Mu asked curiously. Ask about the evil people sect. We know the rules. If we disguise as them and sneak in, we won't be discovered easily. Suyin laughed. Big Brother Wu is so attentive. The female disciple called Mu Cheng said with a smile. Well, everyone, take the clothes of the dead robbers, and then we will go to the demon religion sect. The rest of you, quickly return to the immortal sword sect and inform the sect about this matter. Oh, that's right. The demon religion leader's power is as high as the heavens. His ultimate demonic technique is extremely powerful, but this technique's power is not that great in the early morning. When the experts from the immortal sword sect arrive, please make sure that they make their move in the early morning. This way, killing the demon religion leader will increase our chances of success. Oh, how did Brother Ling Feng know? That's what the leader of the bandits said. Senior Brother Mu glanced at the black boss lying on the ground and nodded. Understood. All right, let's split up. Brother Wu, are you coming with us? Of course. It's our duty to eradicate evil. How can I retreat at this time? Brother Wu is truly a righteous man. Everyone praised. The Crescent Valley to the Immortal Sword Sect was only a 2-day journey by Black Stallion. This group of disciples did not learn the famous imperial sword technique of the Immortal Sword Sect, so they could only rely on their feet. If they could inform the experts of the Immortal Sword Sect, then with their agility, they would be able to arrive here in a flash. Therefore, after staying here for a while, everyone chose to return to the demon religion sect. Surprisingly, Senior Brother Mu chose to stay. According to him, if everyone returned to the demon religion sect in one piece, it would only raise suspicions. If someone returned missing an arm or a leg, it could be said that the prey would rather die than follow them. Everyone fought fiercely and killed the prey. Only then did they return without accomplishing anything. This would be more convincing. But everyone understood that Senior Brother Mu wanted to rely on this mission to gain more sect contribution points to fight for the opportunity to be promoted to an elite disciple. His arm was cut off, so if he could be promoted to an elite disciple, then he could ask the elders to reattach his arm. In addition to Senior Brother Mu, there was also Mu Cheng, Jiang Long, Bai Xiao Fei, Zhang Dechong, Li Xianjian, and Lu Ronghua. These are all newly promoted inner disciples. Their strength was not bad, and their courage was not bad. Although this mission would certainly reward them handsomely, their lives were more important. No one was willing to go, so Mu Cheng took the initiative to join. In any case, using the void sword to disguise himself did not matter if he was a man or a woman. Suyin greeted everyone. Then, he dragged the half-dead black-armored leader to lead the way towards the demon religion sect. Everyone be careful. Keep an eye on this guy. He is very cunning and very familiar with this place. Do not let him escape. Otherwise, our lives will be in danger. Senior Brother Mu's face was pale as he weakly said, "Understood." Jiang Long and Bai Xiaofei, who were standing beside the black-armored leader, nodded. "Senior Brother Mu, are you okay?" The only female disciple, Mu Chung, asked with concern. "No problem. As long as we can hold on for a little more than a day, we will be fine. When the seniors arrive, the small demon religion sect will be annihilated," Senior Brother Mu said with difficulty. When everyone saw this, they did not say anything. This mission was a matter of life and death. If they survived, the Immortal Sword sect disciples would reap great benefits. If they could not survive, only death awaited them. Therefore, everyone was very cautious. Soon, the black-armored leader led everyone through a hazy fog area. They crossed the valley's unique swamp area and finally arrived at the depths of the Crescent Valley. Demon Religion Sect Headquarters. "Everyone, this is the Demon Religion Sect," the black-armored leader said in fear. Everyone looked over. The headquarters was built in a very imposing manner. The entire valley was surrounded by all kinds of buildings. It was like a paradise, majestic and spectacular. In the end, this was a sect, not a robber's nest. The entrance was covered with arrays, and there were crystal stone enchantments everywhere. In case of an emergency, the enchantment would immediately activate to protect the area. A few of the Immortal Sword sect disciples were shocked. It seems like the Demon Religion sect is not as simple as we thought. But compared to our Immortal Sword sect, they are still far behind. Bai Xiaofei disdainfully said, "If the black-armored leader does not report for more than a day, it will arouse suspicion. So we should hurry," Senior Brother Mu said. Everyone nodded and stepped forward. "Wait a minute." At this time, Su Yun suddenly shouted. Everyone looked at him and asked, "What's wrong?" They saw Su Yun suddenly pull out his rusted sword. Without saying anything, he stabbed the black-armored leader's chest. The black-armored leader was caught off guard. The sword instantly pierced through his heart. He fell to the ground and died. Everyone was shocked. Their hearts trembled, but they quickly recovered. Everyone understood why Su Yun did this. If the black-armored leader went in, his identity would be exposed. However, the black-armored leader's brain was really not good. Su Yun let the 7 Immortal Sword sect disciples pretend to be the Demon Religion sect disciples. Including himself, there were actually 8 people. Looking at the number of people, it was clear that Su Yun did not intend to let the black-armored leader go. After the death of the black-armored leader, Su Yun immediately asked the strongest of the group, Jiang Long, to use the sword illusion to disguise himself. After changing into the black-armored leader's clothes and the token, he led everyone into the Demon Religion sect. Chapter 15. Demon Religion Hunting Hall. "Hey, why did you come back empty-handed? Where's the prey?" A one-eyed brawny man was holding a bottle of wine. His steps were swaying as he stopped the black-armored leader and asked. Those prey were very stubborn. They would rather die than come with us. They had a lot of people. Our brothers could not hold back and kill them all. The black-armored leader said with a wretched expression, "Kill them all." The one-eyed brawny man heard this and looked at the black-armored leader. His eyes flashed with disdain. "No wonder. Your people were all heavily injured. But after such a long time, you did not even get a single hair. You are really useless. What the fuck are you talking about?" The black-armored leader was angry. "What? Do you want to fight with me?" The one-eyed brawny man immediately raised his voice and stared at the black-armored leader. The black-armored leader was speechless. He looked like he was enduring. He coldly snorted and turned to leave. "A bunch of useless people," the one-eyed brawny man snorted. Because he was injured, the black-armored leader made a special request. For the next 2 days, he did not go out on a mission. He allowed his men to cultivate in their own rooms. This request was also approved. When the Immortal Sword sect disciples received this news, they were really happy. Since they were in their rooms, they were safe. They only needed to wait for reinforcements. However, Su Yun could not wait. On the morning of the second day, he walked out of his place of cultivation and headed toward the sect master's place of cultivation. There were tens of thousands of people in the Demon Religion sect. The ranking was very strict. As soon as he approached the sect leader's room, he was stopped. "Blackstone Wolf? What are you doing here?" The fourth-level spirit heart guard frowned as he looked at the person walking over. I have an important matter to see the sect leader. Please step aside. Important matter? The guard was alert. What important matter? Just tell me, and I will inform the sect leader. This matter is very important. I must personally report to the sect leader. Quickly step aside. If you delay this matter, the sect leader will blame you. Can you bear the responsibility? The black-armored leader seriously said. You. The guard was somewhat angry. Since when did this little vice leader dare to talk to him like this? His heart sank. He was extremely unhappy. He shouted, "The sect leader has no time to see you right now. Get lost." All right then. The black boss didn't insist. He just sneered. When the time comes, the situation will become serious. The sect leader will blame me for not informing him. So I can only tell him that you, my lord, didn't want me to go. With that, he turned around and left. When the guard heard this, his face turned pale. After hesitating for a moment, he hurriedly shouted, "Wait!" The black boss stopped. "What's wrong?" The guard was a little hesitant. It's not convenient for the sect leader to meet people now. If you go in, I'm afraid the sect leader will be angry. Hearing this, Boss Hay shook his head. Don't worry about that. Compared to my matter, the sect leader won't be angry. If there's any blame, I'll bear it alone. Hearing those words, the guard pondered for a moment before nodding. You may enter. The black boss walked straight in. The sect leader's cultivation place was very imposing. First, one had to pass through a small path paved with jade. Then, one had to jump over 3 huge arrays and pass through a spirit lake. Only then would one be able to see the sect leader's palace like cultivation place. The demon religion sect was really rich. Every year, most of the spirit cultivators that came here were killed. The spirit cultivators' wealth and treasures were also plundered. The thieves here were really rich. Even though this place was dangerous, under the temptation of the crescent moon fruit and the heavenly crystal, there were still countless people that rushed here. The black boss did not go near the cultivation place. Instead, he observed from the periphery. If he was too close to the cultivation place, he was afraid that the sect leader would be aware. The sect leader's cultivation was not low, so the concealing powder on his body may not have any effect. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, the black boss quickly left the sect leader's cultivation place. When he approached the guard, the black boss did not forget to stop. The sect leader said that today, I am here, cannot be mentioned to anyone. Otherwise, they will be killed. Do you understand? Seeing the black boss's serious face, the guard nodded. Understood. Very good. The black boss patted the guard's shoulder and turned to leave. After leaving the sect leader's residence, things were not over. Since he had to act, he had to have a plan. He had to prepare for a rainy day so that he would not get wet. Su Yun, who was disguised as the black boss, wandered around the demon religion sect. Although there were many places that he could not enter, after half a day, he had already explored the terrain. At dusk, he returned to the black boss's residence and waited inside. The dilapidated room was filled with a strange stench. Suyin did not care. He sat cross-legged on the bed and began to circulate the spirit chi in his body to speed it up. Swordsmen had a cultivation path that belonged solely to them. The sword was built on the spirit chi. If the spirit chi was not strong enough, then the sword chi released would also be very weak. Although he had the limitless sword arts, it was not easy to cultivate. The next 4 swords required the support of a strong and majestic spirit chi. The first sword was to control 100 swords. The 100 swords flew together. To control the swords, one needed to have a very deep understanding of the sword. Training chi was not simply about training the thickness of the chi, but it was about training the connection between the profound spirit chi and oneself. How to use the profound spirit chi with ease and how to transform it into a part of one's body was the most important part of training chi. Su Yun raised his hand and gently urged the spirit chi in his body to gather in his palm. The spirit chi began to move. In a moment, the spirit chi overflowed and gathered in the palm of his hand. It turned into a deep blue ball. Bursts of soft and light chi rippled out. Su Yun's eyes were solemn. He stared at the ball of spirit chi and began to try to control it. The ball gradually twisted. After a moment, it gently separated and spread out in all directions. They transformed into a thin layer of membrane and gently covered Su Yun's palm. However, the coverage was not uniform. Some places had more and some places had less. This was because he was still unfamiliar with the spirit chi. Although he had the memories of his previous life, Su Yun's actual combat experience was too little. His spirit chi control was only at the 6th stage of the spirit novice realm. There were many things that he still needed to practice. Su Yun did not sleep the whole night and practiced until the next morning. At dawn, he stopped practicing and asked the low-level followers to bring some food for him to recover his strength. Looking at the light outside the window, he murmured to himself and left the house. About half an hour later, there was a knock on the door. Black Armored Leader, are you there? Zhang Dechang, disguised as a disciple, knocked on the door. Calculating the time, he was afraid that the disciples had already returned to the Immortal Sword sect. The elders of the Immortal Sword sect estimated that it would not be long before the elders arrived. All the disguised disciples had already gathered in Senior Mu's room. They were just waiting for the experts to arrive. Then, they would work together to destroy the demon religion sect. Zhang Dechang followed Senior Mu's words to inform Limitless Sword God to gather there. However, after knocking for a long time, no one opened the door. Zhang Dechang was a little anxious. Did something happen to Limitless Sword God? Noisy. Black Armored Leader left early in the morning. Why are you knocking on the door? Can't you let me sleep? At this time, the other disciples in the room next to him roared with dissatisfaction. Left. When Zhang Dechang heard this, he immediately froze. At this moment, the sound of a sword piercing through the sky could be heard. Then, a thunderous roar came from the sky above the demon religion sect. I did not expect the Crescent Valley to have such a harmful sect hidden deep inside. Good. Today I, Feng Jian, will enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. The roar echoed in all 4 directions. 4th Elder. Zhang Dechang was stunned. Chapter 16. Zhang Dechang rushed to Brother Mu's room and shouted, 4th Elder Feng is here. Brother, 4th Elder Feng is here. As the sound of thunder fell, a large number of sword sounds mixed with each other in the sky. The silent demon religion school suddenly exploded. All of the demon religion school's members picked up their blades and ran out of their training grounds in a panic. In the sky, nearly 100 people appeared on flying swords. These people were all wearing Blade Master clothes. Their whole body was wrapped in a strong sword aura. They had a proud posture and looked down from the sky like immortals. From this aura, it could be seen that these intruders were not ordinary people. The people of the demon religion sect were terrified. There's a situation. Quickly open the enchantment. Sound the alarm. Prepare to meet the enemy. Inform the leader. The crowd was in a mess, shouting and yelling. Su Yun, who was hiding in the dark, looked at the sky and whispered, "Is this the Imperial Sword Technique? This sect's Imperial Sword Technique and my Limitless Sword sect's Imperial Sword Technique are worlds apart. They can only use one sword, and they need to be in contact with the flying sword. The two must be connected as one. Using the direct transmission of spirit aura to achieve the so-called Imperial Sword Technique, it is not considered high-end. Compared to the Limitless Sword sect's Imperial Sword Technique, they are just children." After Su Yun heard this, he did not say anything and turned to leave. Soon, the various enchantments of the demon religion sect began to rise. A large amount of light enveloped all the buildings of the demon religion sect. Humph, insignificant skill. In the sky, a man with long white hair and red sleeves coldly snorted. With one hand, he pinched a sword and vigorously threw the enchantment. Kung Chi. With his bare hands, he threw out a huge half-moon-shaped sword chi. The sword chi was extremely sharp. Like a curved blade, it fiercely smashed into the enchantment. In a flash, all the enchantments were cut into pieces. The remaining sword chi smashed into the ground and created an unfathomably deep dent. Strong. This was the only word left in everyone's mind after seeing this scene. Such a move had caused the morale of these evil people to drop by 30%. At this moment, inside the demon religion sect's leader's training ground. Not good. Not good. Leader, not good. A silhouette rushed in a panic. The man and woman who were still in the middle of their body fusion cultivation had no choice but to stop. A fat man with a fat head and big ears climbed up from the body of a beautiful young woman. Both of them were naked, but facing the people who had rushed in, neither of them showed any shyness. Only the young woman casually took the clothes beside her and covered her vital parts. What a strong sword intent. The demon god religion leader frowned. He looked at the person who just entered and asked, "Why are you so flustered?" Reporting to sect leader, outside, there are a lot of experts. You should go and take a look. It's terrible out there. That person lowered his head in panic, his voice trembling. Useless trash. It's just a few trash. Is there a need to be so afraid? Quickly inform everyone to prepare to face the enemy. I want to see who has the guts to come here and behave atrociously. The hierarch said disdainfully. He did not even put on his clothes and directly walked out of the training ground. The man kept his head lowered. Only after the sect leader left did he raise his head. Looking at the exit, the panic on his face was immediately swept away. He opened his eyes and quickly looked around the training ground. He saw that this place was really like a palace. The ground was golden, the pillars were made of jade, and even the bed was nearly 5 meters wide. At this moment, the hierarch's wife, who was lying on the bed, was looking at the man with seductive eyes. "Little brother, you are really handsome. Are you new to the sect?" The hierarch's wife asked with a smile. Her round thighs gently swayed, extremely tempting. However, the man did not seem to hear the words of the hierarch's wife. He directly went to the side of the flawless jade table. Ignored. Blatant disregard. The hierarch's wife suddenly became angry. The man did not say anything and quickly went to the table. He took down the incomparably exquisite treasure box on the table, opened it, and then quickly turned and ran away. The hierarch's wife froze for a moment. Her face suddenly changed and shouted, "You dare to touch the hierarch's treasure, the heavenly crystal? Are you tired of living?" She never thought that this man would be so bold as to touch the treasure in front of her. Immediately, she did not care about her shyness. She took off her clothes, stood up naked, and pounced on that person with one leap. Her palms were bursting with profound spirit power, like 2 steel thorns, piercing towards the hierarch's wife. But the moment she approached, Su Yun took out a piece of parchment from his storage ring. He directly pulled the parchment and used it as a shield to block the hierarch's wife. Parchment? The hierarch's wife was startled. Without waiting for a response, she saw the parchment suddenly burst into light. Then a pair of old virtual palms emerged from the parchment and hit the hierarch's wife's palm. Bang! Her palms collided. Clang! The sword intent was like an electric current that instantly spread through the hierarch's wife's body, tearing every part of her body. Poochie! The hierarch's wife fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. A large number of small sword marks appeared on her delicate white body, making it difficult for her to move. She could see that this man's cultivation was low, but she did not expect him to have such a method. She was careless and suffered a big loss. I did not expect Senior to have such a method. Suyun's heart was slightly happy. He did not look back and immediately ran. He pushed his spirit power to the limit and broke a window on the side. Then he jumped out and quickly escaped. At this moment, outside of the cultivation ground, Immortal Sword Sect? We do not interfere with each other. Why do you come here to harass us? The demon religion leader's face congealed as he looked at the sky and said, "You evil people, using the Crescent Valley as a base, you have committed many evil deeds and harmed the people of the world. The Immortal Sword Sect has always been eradicating the world's evil. Today, I found you evil people. How can I let you live in this world?" The fourth elder of the Immortal Sword Sect coldly said, "Hey." The hierarch spat and his fat face shook with a contemptuous smile. What do you mean by upholding justice and eradicating evil? You righteous sects are more hypocritical than us. Don't think that I don't know that you came here to steal my treasure, the heavenly crystal. Feng Jian's face slightly changed, but soon returned to normal. He did not waste his breath and directly shouted, "Kill! Leave no one alive." "Yes, sir." The Immortal Sword Sect's elites immediately took action. "Ha ha ha, come on. Come on. I'm not afraid of you. It just so happens that my ultimate demonic technique is lacking a few living sacrifices. I will use you as my sacrifices." The hierarch laughed, but this laughter only lasted for a moment. His smile stiffened. He seemed to feel something. He quickly turned his head and rushed to the cultivation ground. Rushing into the cultivation ground, he saw the hierarch's wife lying on the ground, vomiting blood. The heavenly crystal that was placed on the side had disappeared. Chapter 17. The heavenly crystal was nowhere to be seen. The leader was furious. He grabbed his wife's hair and shouted, "What happened? Where is my heavenly crystal?" "Idiot! That disciple is fake. He took advantage of you being unprepared and stole the heavenly crystal." Madam Sect Master shouted weakly. "How is this possible? He was only a spirit novice disciple. You dare to deceive me?" How could the Sect Master believe him? His cultivation was much higher than Su Yun's. How could he not see through Su Yun's cultivation? Although the madam's strength was not strong, it should be easy for her to deal with a spirit novice disciple. Moreover, how could such a lowly person dare to do such a thing? The cult master's wife remained silent. Trash. The cult leader was furious and threw the woman to the ground. He stood up and looked around. Soon, he saw the window that had been smashed. "You can't run far." The cult master bellowed and was about to give chase. However, at this moment, a sharp sword essence suddenly surrounded him. Then, Feng Jian's sharp voice was heard. "Let's see where you can run to." One man and one sword, he charged in alone. The sword intent instantly filled the entire hall. Damn it! The sect leader's face was as cold as frost as he stared at these people with bloodshot eyes. Without the heavenly crystal, he could only rely on his own cultivation to deal with the wind sword. How despicable! You actually sent people to steal my heavenly crystal and then deal with me. Heh, is your famous upright sects also this shameless now? The sect master said coldly. Stolen? Feng Jian frowned. All right, good. It doesn't matter if I don't have the heavenly crystal. I will let you see the power of my ultimate demonic magic. With that, the sect leader pounced forward. Just then, he heard the excited shouts of the Immortal Sword Sect disciples outside. Elder Long is here. This is great. The demon religion will be destroyed today. Cries of joy resounded without end. At this moment, somewhere in Crescent Valley, panting, Su Yun ran with all his might. Ha 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 ha! It really is the heavenly crystal. It really is the heavenly crystal. Boy, you've hit the jackpot. Ha ha ha! The Sword Elder's joyful laughter resounded from the parchment. Thank you for your help, Senior. Su Yun took a deep breath. I just helped out a little. The most important thing is that you are brave enough and meticulous enough. Otherwise, it would be impossible to complete this task. The Sword Elder laughed. I'm just trying my luck. Su Yun slowed down and rested. A strong enemy has arrived. The entire demon religion sect is shrouded in an aura. The sect leader's mind must be on the enemy's aura. All of his attention is focused on trying to figure out the enemy's strength. As for me, I'm just a small follower. He simply does not care about me. Therefore, with the disguise skill, Jin Su, there's a high chance that he will be able to get away. What if I can't get away with it? At most, I won't be able to get the heavenly crystal. If he sees through my disguise, I can immediately escape outside. There are experts from the Immortal Sword Sect outside. They can protect me. Then how did you know that the sect master would go outside to see the situation first, instead of immediately putting on his clothes and magical treasures to fight the enemy? This is just my analysis of Cult Master. Analysis? Yes. It was a simple analysis of evil people. If the sect master is really evil, then according to the habits of evil people, he will first test the opponent. If he can't win, then he will fight. If he can't win, then he will run. If the sect master takes the heavenly crystal out, the heavenly crystal's aura will be astonishing. Feng Jian will certainly sense it and will immediately try to snatch it. If Feng Jian's strength is high, then what if the sect master is no match for him? Therefore, I guess he will first go outside to see the situation. If he can see that the opponent is strong enough, then he will come back to take the heavenly crystal. If the opponent is strong enough, then he will take the heavenly crystal and escape. The heavenly crystal's aura is astonishing. This treasure box can seal a lot of its aura. Therefore, the demon religion sect master chose to put the heavenly crystal in the box. Hey boy, if he doesn't do what you think he will do and take the heavenly crystal with him, then what are you going to do? Then I have no choice but to wait for him to fight with Feng Jian. But at that time, the chance of getting the heavenly crystal is very slim. Whether it is the immortal sword sect or the demon religion sect, I can't compete with them. Even if they are both injured, I am afraid that the immortal sword sect disciples or the demon religion sect disciples will snatch it away. Then why did you bring the immortal sword sect disciples here? If they don't come, how can I get the chance to take the treasure? Moreover, they can help me stall the demon religion sect. After I succeed, the demon religion sect will not be able to kill me. I did not expect that the immortal sword sect would be used by a boy like you. It is not a use, it is just taking what we need. He will destroy the demon religion sect and gain fame. I will get the heavenly crystal and gain profit. What if your plan fails? What will you do? If you are not careful, you will lose your life. This plan depends on luck in many aspects. The probability of failure is not small, but even if there is only a 10% chance of success, I still have to try. The sword elder heard this and was surprised. You are very persistent. For the heavenly crystal, your life is not important? If there are some things that cannot be completed, then there is no difference between living and dying. Also, I don't have much time left, Suyin said calmly. His eyes were filled with a trace of haze. The sword elder did not speak. He seemed to have understood something. At this moment, his voice was somewhat weak. He was afraid that he had consumed a lot of his spiritual power. Although the time he spent outside was very short, it was still too much for him to bear. Boy, I can't hold on any longer. I will first return to the limitless sword arts. You take care of yourself. The sword elder gasped. Senior, take care, Suyin said, and then continued to run away. However, at this time, the sword elder who was about to return to the limitless sword arts suddenly shouted, Not good. There's a mighty cultivator. Be careful. Be careful. Mighty cultivator? Suyin was stunned. A loud and clear rebuke rang out. Ignorant and despicable person, you dare to rob my immortal sword sect's things. Quickly kneel down and offer your treasures, or else I will turn you into ashes. As his voice fell, a dense sword intent attacked this place like a rainbow, piercing through the sun. So fast, Suyun's heart trembled. To be called a mighty cultivator by the sword elder. How could his strength be weak? Immortal sword sect's things? Was he talking about the heavenly crystal? So shameless. Did he already consider it as his own? Suyin was angry. Continue to run? It was useless. He was not even in the spirit intermediate realm. How could he escape from the opponent in terms of speed? Could it be that the heavenly crystal that he had risked his life to exchange for would be taken away by the opponent? His heart was not willing. He clenched his teeth and stared at the treasure box in his hand. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. Since the people of the world say that you are so amazing, then let me see your power. Suyun's face slightly congealed. He suddenly opened the box. Boy, what do you want to do? The sword elder was shocked. Since there is no way to escape, why not fight for it? Suyun's voice was filled with killing intent. His actions were abnormally decisive. Chapter 18. In the vast sky, a white-clothed woman was standing on a slender white sword. The woman did not wear any makeup. She was extremely beautiful. Her figure was slim, and her black hair fluttered like a waterfall. Her facial features were exquisite and perfect. Her eyebrows were light, her skin was snow white, and her lips were red. Her flawless cheeks were crystal clear like jade. She was like a holy and noble fairy from the ninth heaven. She was not tainted by the mortal world. It seemed that anyone who looked at her would be blasphemous. The surrounding flowers and plants lost their color. Even the sun and the moon were dim. Stunning. No matter which man looked at her, their heart would palpitate and their soul would be taken away by her. Suyin took a deep breath. Kacha. The box containing the heavenly crystal was opened. An astonishing and proud aura spread out in all directions like a blooming lotus. The aura blew on Suyun's robe. It removed the sword aura effect on his body and dispersed his concealing powder. The aura wrapped around him tightly, almost like a cocoon. The fairy-like woman saw this. Her snow-white face was covered with frost. She shouted from the sky, "Quickly stop. Otherwise, die." However, Suyun turned a deaf ear to her. The exquisite box had become dim. Inside the box, the black stones suddenly bloomed with a dazzling seven-colored light. An inexplicably powerful aura overflowed from the stone and squeezed Suyun's aura. He could not help but take a few steps back. His hand that was holding the box trembled wildly. It seemed that in the next second, the box would fly into the sky. He tensed his nerves and held on to this aura. "Senior, how do I use it?" Suyun asked. "Imprint it on your chest." Suyun did not hesitate and grabbed the heavenly crystal. The heavenly crystal was in his hand. It was as if he was holding a living creature. It trembled wildly and constantly swayed as if it wanted to rush out of Suyun's grasp. Suyun used all of his strength to hold it tightly and did not let it escape. Then, Huchi, the heavenly crystal, was smashed. Chirp! The moment it touched his chest, it quickly melted like ice. In the blink of an eye, it was submerged. And in an instant, a dark light with Suyun as the center went straight to the sky. The scene was grand and magnificent, and it was like Pangu splitting open the heavens and the earth. The surrounding sand and stones began to shake, as if they were being controlled by some kind of power. The ground where the black light bloomed was also dyed pitch black. When the fairy-like woman saw this, her face became dignified. She whispered, "Rumor has it that the heavenly crystal is a part of the heavenly domain's divine weapon. It contains a supreme divine power. I didn't think it would have such an amazing aura." Suyun's face was covered in perspiration. At this moment, he was enduring endless pressure. The power that erupted from the heavenly crystal seemed to fill his entire body. It was as if a large spirit spring had appeared in his chest. A large amount of profound spirit chi surged out. The spirit spring would never dry up. The human's bones, blood vessels, and internal organs were all covered by golden gas. His eyes turned red and yellow, and the heavenly crystal on his chest fused into a golden mark. A thick and inexhaustible power was stored in every part of his body. In the blink of an eye, he was reborn, shedding his cocoon and becoming a butterfly. Power. He could clearly feel it. It was like the state of a hungry and tired person after eating and sleeping enough. Speed, strength, chi, senses, and the proficiency in controlling the profound spirit chi had increased to a terrifying height. A storm of chi surged over, blowing the fairy back several times. The heavenly crystal is really a treasure. You, with such a low cultivation level, can actually use it. However, do you think you can beat me? With your low cultivation level, you can't display its formidable strength. You can't compete with me. Obediently surrender. The fairy did not dare to delay any longer. With a cold shout, the white sword under her feet turned into a snow-white lightning. In a blink of an eye, she rushed towards Suyun. The sword aura swept over like 1,000 eagles swooping down. It made people's hair stand on end. Suyun stared at the white light. He felt that his eyes were many times sharper than before. Suddenly, he lifted the rusted sword and covered the sword with his profound spirit chi. Then, he rushed towards the direction of the sword. Countless profound spirit chi was shaken. It was like a huge wave. The sword was heavy. Dong! The rusted sword unexpectedly hit the white sword. The two swords collided. The rusted sword was covered with profound spirit chi. It was incomparably tough, but it was not a match for the white sword. In an instant, it turned into powder. However, the sword was endowed with endless power. It did not dissipate. Bang! The white sword was unexpectedly not a match for the fierce and overbearing Qi. It shook crazily. The fairy was forced to retreat again and again. Her footsteps were difficult to stabilize. Seeing this, Su Yun's heart shivered. He did not hold back. Although the sword was broken, he still rushed over with his bare hands. His strong fist fiercely hit the fairy's head. With this hit, the brain would burst and the head would be smashed. However, the fairy's speed was so fast that it made people speechless. Obviously, his fist was about to touch her body. In a flash, the fairy disappeared. When she reappeared, she was already behind Su Yun. Dong! The fist fell and hit the ground. In an instant, the earth shook and rocks splashed. The thick, profound spirit Qi on the fist was like a bag of water splashing in all directions. You really don't know life from death. Seeing that Su Yun actually made her flustered, the fairy was furious. Her killing intent exploded. The white sword in her hand trembled and whizzed towards Su Yun, just like white lightning. Poochie! The sword pierced through his body. Blood splattered. The sword intent wanted to pass through the sword to Su Yun's body. It wanted to tear his body apart. But the profound spirit Qi in Su Yun's body was incomparably strong. In an instant, the sword intent was sealed. Moreover, Su Yun took a hit but did not feel the slightest bit of pain. He suddenly turned around. The vigorous, profound spirit Qi burst out. It actually forced the white sword out of his body. Then, he punched the fairy's shoulder. Bang! The fairy was caught off guard. Her shoulder was hit. She was hit again and again. Blood spilled from her mouth. Su Yun took a deep breath and looked at the wound on his chest. He saw that the broken flesh was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. A strong, profound spirit Qi gives a person an eternal body. No wonder so many people are obsessed with cultivation. The profound spirit Qi is really incredible. Su Yun muttered, "It seems that I have underestimated the power of the heavenly crystal." The fairy took a deep breath. Her eyes slightly congealed. Her expression was unprecedentedly serious. She raised the white sword in her hand. Her left hand pinched the sword seal. She closed her eyes and opened her red lips. Then, a few words came out of her mouth. Sword intent in my heart. Profound spirit Qi. Broken spirit Qi. Broken spirit Qi. Nameless, as the chant fell, the surrounding sand and stones suddenly flew. A gust of wind blew. The sky was dim and the ground was shaking. A large number of whirlwinds rushed towards the white sword in the fairy's hand. It was as if they were attracted to it. Not good. Suddenly, the sword elder shouted. Su Yun's expression revealed a trace of astonishment. He vaguely heard the sword chant. New hung sword technique? Su Yun whispered. The entire Crescent Valley rippled with an indescribable sword intent. It was as if this place had become an absolute domain. It was a domain that belonged to her. Countless ferocious beasts in the valley were crawling on the ground, trembling. It was as if they had surrendered to the sword intent. They did not dare to have the slightest thought of resistance. Boy, quickly leave. This aura is very majestic. If I was still alive, this technique would not be a waste. But you are just a small spirit novice disciple. You must not face this technique head-on. Quickly leave. Go. The sword elder shouted. However, Su Yun did not move. This sword technique uses Qi as a sword. The wider the coverage of the Qi, the wider the sword's attack range. It will be difficult for me to escape. The sword elder was stunned. He did not realize that Su Yun's words were wrong. He asked, "Do you want to give up?" "Of course not." Su Yun looked solemn. Suddenly, he took a step forward. He did not retreat. Instead, he rushed towards the fairy. "Boy, what are you doing?" The sword elder asked anxiously. "Courting death." Seeing that Su Yun did not run away, but instead rushed towards her, the fairy's face suddenly became cold. She raised a white sword in her hand and slashed towards Su Yun. Boom! A huge sword shadow that was 100 feet long appeared. Then, it fell down with a magnificent momentum. This move seemed to split the entire earth. The sword shadow was like the falling sky. It covered the entire sky above Su Yun's head. The rich sword intent began to stimulate his body. His skin and tendons were like countless needles. It was very uncomfortable. It's over. It's over. Boy, you're too impulsive. Everything is over. The sword elder cried in pain. You are too impulsive. However, just as the sword elder's voice fell, Su Yun suddenly appeared in front of the fairy in a few steps. With a stunned expression on her face, Su Yun extended his finger and ruthlessly poked the fairy's arm. That gentle finger actually produced a miraculous effect. Oh! The fairy's whole body trembled. She retreated again and again. The white sword in her hand was not stable. Her pretty face turned pale. She spat out a mouthful of bright red blood from her lips. The huge sword shadow that was about to cut Su Yun's body suddenly disappeared. What? What? The sword elder was completely dumbfounded. Chapter 19. The sword aura that seemed like the end of the world suddenly disappeared without a trace. The flying sand and stones stopped. The terrifying sword aura dissipated. The sword aura did not leave a trace. It was as if nothing had happened. How is this possible? The immortal hurriedly stabilized the turbulent blood in her body and said, You actually broke my eternal sword? Who the hell are you? But in the next second, the immortal's lower abdomen was punched again. Her whole body was shaken. Su Yun did not give the opponent a chance to breathe. He took advantage of the situation and continued to pursue. The immortal was extremely annoyed. She no longer cared about how powerful the heavenly crystal was or how despicable Su Yun was. She immediately shook her hand and clenched her white sword. She was about to use all of her strength. The sword aura that did not dissipate for long bloomed again like a storm. It swept in all four directions as if it wanted to fill the entire Crescent Valley. Su Yun's face was cold. He was not afraid. He wanted to go up again until he defeated this person. But at this time, a mournful sword whistled towards him. He only saw a light blue light beam colliding with him. He looked up and saw that in the light beam, a person holding a sword was approaching him. It was Feng Jian. It seemed like he had already defeated the sect leader. Without the heavenly crystal, the sect leader was defeated by Feng Jian so quickly. Su Yun's heart became serious. Now that he was facing this immortal, coupled with Feng Jian, even with the protection of the heavenly crystal, how could he be her opponent? I must retreat. Making up his mind, he turned around and quickly ran. Want to run? It's not that easy. Feng Jian increased his speed. With a loud roar, the sword Qi rushed forward. Just as he was about to reach his target, the person who was running suddenly turned around, and a terrifying and dense, profound spirit Qi wrapped around an iron fist flew over. The iron fist smashed Feng Jian's protective sword Qi. Ignoring his treasure, it directly hit Feng Jian's head. Dong! Feng Jian did not think that Su Yun would dare to attack him. He could not dodge and immediately ate the punch. His whole body was knocked to the ground. Crescent Valley was hit by him and shook. Feng Jian was injured. Seeing this, Su Yun's heart trembled. With Feng Jian's strength, how could he not avoid his own attack? I'm afraid, although he defeated the sect leader, he also suffered a lot of injuries. If that was the case, then it was an opportunity. Su Yun's eyes were filled with killing intent. He immediately turned around and gave up on escaping. He actually rushed towards Feng Jian. Don't you dare hurt him. The fairy on the other side sensed Su Yun's intentions. Her heart trembled. She never expected Su Yun to be so daring. He immediately attacked, intending to force this reckless person to retreat. However, Su Yun did not dodge. After all, there was a distance between the two of them. The fairy would not be able to help in time. He could completely smash Feng Jian's head and then dodge. At that time, as long as he was not injured, with the protection of the heavenly crystal, he would not die from the sword. However, at this moment, he felt his chest suddenly burning up. In an instant, the abundant energy in his body was like a leaking balloon, quickly dissipating. Not good. The heavenly crystal's effect is over. The sword elder cried out in alarm. Continuous effect? Su Yun was startled. You're currently using the heavenly crystal, but you're not using all of its power. After all, your cultivation is too low. It won't last long either. Hearing that, Su Yun's face darkened. If he did not have the support of the heavenly crystal, he would definitely die. Although this move could kill Feng Jian, what would happen after that? Would he still have the ability to deal with this fairy? In a split second, his brain spun, and immediately he made a decision. Su Yun suddenly changed the direction of his attack and rushed towards the incoming fairy. Mixed with the remaining power of the heavenly crystal, his fist was like a tiger, whistling loudly. His profound spirit chi rippled out from the center of his fist. The fairy's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. Her movements also showed a moment of hesitation. She did not know if she should face this attack head-on. However, in the next second, Su Yun had already seized this opportunity. He hastily turned and fled. The fairy's eyebrows wrinkled. However, she did not chase after him. Instead, she returned to Feng Jian's side, took out 2 pills, and gave them to the weakened Feng Jian. After Feng Jian swallowed it, his complexion became much better. Why not chase? Feng Jian struggled to get up and looked at the direction Su Yun fled. Right now, he is using the heavenly crystal. It is not easy to deal with him. Wait for the heavenly crystal's effect to end, then I will attack. You can find him? Yes, the fairy lightly said. She raised her delicate hand and stretched out her jade-like fingers. Looking closely, it could be seen that between her fingers there was a very fine hair. The last trace of power was exhausted. Su Yun weakly fainted in the wilderness. When he woke up, his whole body seemed to have lost half a bit of strength. He took out some food from his storage ring and wolfed it down. Then, he lay on the ground and rested. It took him a whole day to recover. After the power of the heavenly crystal was released, it would take up to 50 days of spirit chi gathering before it could be used again. In these 100 days, the heavenly crystal was no different from a waste stone. Regarding the heavenly crystal, he did not know much about it. He only knew that it was a treasure separated from an ancient treasure. He sat cross-legged on a stone and opened the box that shielded most of the heavenly crystal's aura. He took out the heavenly crystal and carefully looked at it. This was a stone the size of cobblestone. However, this time, it was not black like before. Instead, it was gray and did not emit any aura. It was probably because the aura inside was exhausted. Even if Su Yun's body could not withstand too much power from the heavenly crystal, it would still release all of its power. After obtaining the heavenly crystal, his goal was achieved. Although this trip exceeded the time limit, it was still a great harvest. After finding the nearest town, Su Yun bought a stallion and rushed to Mirror Lake Town. Entering the Heavenly Sun auction house, it was still crowded and bustling with activity. Su Yun took a deep breath and went to the mission submission area. He opened his storage ring and looked for the crescent moon fruit. Then, he said, "Submit the mission. Please give me your mission card." The person in charge breathed a sigh of relief and lazily said. After handing over the mission card, Su Yun also handed over the crescent moon fruit. When the person in charge, Li Fei, saw the fruit, his lazy face suddenly froze. He had been working at the Sky Sun auction house for more than 10 years. During this time, he had seen the crescent moon fruit once. That fiery red fruit made him unable to forget it until now. This is... Li Fei trembled as he took the fruit. His eyes stared at it for a while. Then he suddenly grabbed the mission card from Su Yun and looked at it. You really got the crescent moon fruit?" Seeing the description on the mission card, Li Fei almost lost his voice and shouted, "Please hand over the mission reward to me." "Oh, okay. Li Fei immediately cheered up and quickly nodded. He took the reward and went backstage. However, he looked back 3 times as he walked. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Although Li Fei did not have any cultivation, he had met many spirit cultivators at the Sky Sun auction house. He could feel that Su Yun's cultivation was not high. But how did he get the crescent moon fruit? This person was so strange. Did he call for help? Li Fei was puzzled. After about half an hour, a spirit card with 60,000 spirit coins was handed over to Su Yun from Li Fei's hand. Su Yun took it and checked it. There was no mistake. Then, he ran to the trading area and began to choose a large pile of materials. pills for cultivation, Fa Hua pill, heaven flood pill, crystal jade pill, clear heart pill. Herbs for body forging, healing body paste, dragon swallow powder, proud body powder. One heart tear profound skill for body refinement. One spring crystal pill furnace. Several materials for alchemy, and these materials for array formation. In front of a window, Su Yun was thinking while listing the materials he needed. The service staff at the window was already very busy. They were constantly using paper and pen to record the materials and constantly asking the staff behind them to prepare. The resources of the Sky Sun auction house were shared. Many items that could not be found anywhere else could be bought here. However, it was rare to see someone like Su Yun who bought so many items in one go. The people behind him were dumbfounded. How can a spirit novice disciple be so rich? People looked at each other and whispered to each other. After half an hour, out of the 60,000 spirit coins, there were only 2,000 left. His storage ring was full. Everything was ready. He left the Sky Sun auction house, mounted his spirit stallion, and galloped back to the Su family. Chapter 20. Before his rebirth, Su Yun's cultivation was not high. But in order to find out why his cultivation was slow, he traveled all over the continent. What he saw and heard was not something that ordinary people could understand, especially when he sneaked into the demon continent to find the devil's sect, which broadened his horizons and made his mind more mature. It was already 2 days later when Su Yun returned to the Su family. The spirit stallion that he had rented from the shop owner was nowhere to be found, so he had to compensate the owner with the spirit stallion that he bought later. The spirit stallion that he bought from the Mirror Lake town was strong and well-developed. The shop owner was very satisfied and did not ask Su Yun to compensate for the overdue amount. Since everything was fine, Su Yun headed back to his hut. In another month, the Intersect Martial Arts competition will be held. I heard that the Intersect people are already arranging the martial arts field. If you don't practice now, how can you get a ranking in the competition? Do you want to wait another 3 years? On the side of the street, a rather old middle-aged woman was reprimanding a young man in front of her with her hands on her hips. The man lowered his head and did not speak. The woman's words became fiercer and fiercer. Guzzi, don't blame your mother for saying this. Look at the children of other families. Which one of them didn't train hard from a young age? I heard that as long as we are in the top 200 of the tournament, we can enter the Intersect. When that time comes, your father and I will be able to make a name for ourselves. But you stay at home all day and don't go to the martial field to cultivate or meditate. Will you have any future if you continue like this? Mother, getting into the top 200 is easier said than done. In every tournament, only a few of us from the outer sect were able to enter. I heard that in the last tournament, only 12 people entered the inner sect, and there were more than 7,000 outer sect disciples participating in the tournament. Do you think your son can stand out from these people? What's more, the people from the inner sect will also participate in this competition. If your son is unlucky and meets someone from the inner sect, he won't even know how he died. The young man said with a bitter face. Hearing this, the middle-aged woman was instantly enraged. She roared, "Do you not want to participate in this competition? Doggy, this is your only chance and our family's only chance. How could you say such a thing? Look at the son of the Wong family next door. He stayed in the martial arts field all day. It was said that he had already broken through to the 7th stage of the spirit novice realm. It would not be difficult for him to break through to the 8th stage. Look at you, still a 6th stage spirit novice disciple. You, why are you so disappointing?" As she spoke, the middle-aged woman began to cry. "Mom, this is different. Uncle Wong saved up some money a few years ago and bought Wong Sheng a few chi-breaking pills. Every time Wong Sheng is about to break through, he takes one. That's how his cultivation speed is so fast. Look at me. Have you ever given me any medicinal pills? I am now at the peak of the 6th level, but no matter how much I cultivate, there's no progress at all. Oh, mother, don't even think about Spirit Xian. I feel that working in the outer sect is not bad." When the middle-aged woman heard this, she cried even harder. Su Yun slowed down his footsteps. Hearing these words, he could not help but feel touched. In this world, The talent of a spirit cultivator was indeed very important, but external support was also indispensable, especially in the early and breakthrough stages. Pills, formations, and other things could sometimes play a crucial role. Triennial Internal Martial Arts Tournament? Suyin muttered. In the Su family, once an outer sect disciple broke through to the first stage of spirit intermediate disciple before the age of 20, they would have the qualifications to enter the inner sect. After the age of 20, they would not be able to enter the inner sect. Usually, it would be very difficult for them to achieve anything in the future. Such people would generally give up the spirit cultivation, because even if they practiced hard, it would be very difficult to practice to a high realm. This required strength assessment. Once the assessment results were out and they met the requirements, they could enter the inner sect. But in addition to this, there was another way, and that was the Su family's Triennial Martial Arts Tournament. Participation scope: inner sect, outer sect. The number of participants is unlimited. Participation reward: the inner sect will receive substantial rewards and will provide high-level medicinal pills and profound techniques. If the participant performs well, the Su family will even provide a teacher to teach the participant for 3 years. This was the most important thing. Many people had no status in the big family, and they could not enter the sect. Therefore, they had to rely on books to cultivate. This was often a headless snake model, and they would take a lot of detours. But if there was a professional teacher to guide them, they would certainly advance by leaps and bounds. Therefore, in the martial arts tournament, the number of participants from the inner sect would not be small. There is only one reward for the external participants: the qualification to enter the inner sect. Although it was simple, it was an irreplaceable reward for the outer sect. Suyin thought for a moment, turned around, and headed towards the registration point for the martial arts tournament. The martial arts tournament was approaching, and the registration point was crowded. There were many men and women gathered there, but everyone was dressed in plain clothes. They did not have any weapons, and they looked inconspicuous. The person in charge of the registration was sent by the inner sect. Because there were very few people who could enter the inner sect through this method, this was just a formality. After all, they had to give the outer sect a chance, otherwise it would not be good if the people were to complain. Name. The person in charge of the registration did not raise his head and lightly said, Xin Li Feng. Realm. That. Spirit novice disciple. Disciple. 6th stage. The simple and honest man was somewhat embarrassed. The person in charge of the registration showed a trace of disdain. The man did not notice, but the other outer sect disciples behind him clearly saw this disdainful smile. Their hearts were angry, but the other party's cultivation was higher than theirs. Their status was also several times higher than theirs, so they could only swallow their anger. No one said anything. The person in charge continued to arrogantly receive the next registrants until it was Su Yun's turn. Name. Su Yun. Su Yun? The person in charge raised his head and looked at the person in charge. Su Yun slightly narrowed his eyes and looked at the person in charge. Suddenly, a familiar face flashed in his mind. You are the one in charge of the inner sect warehouse. Su Dahai? Su Yun suddenly said. Oh, young Master Su, so you still remember me. It's really an honor. Su Dahai sneered. Su Dahai was 5 or 6 years older than Su Yun. He had been in charge of the inner sect warehouse for a long time. However, when the warehouse was being checked, the deacon found that dozens of balance pills were missing. Everyone knew that this was Su Dahai's private embezzlement, but no one would say anything because Su Dahai was under Su Gue Mu's protection. However, when Su Gue Mu madly swindled Su Yun's money, Su Yun's resentment towards Su Gue Mu soared to the heavens. Coincidentally, Su Yun encountered this matter. In order to retaliate against Su Gue Mu, Su Yun exposed this matter. Naturally, Su Dahai was unlucky and lost his job. Otherwise, he would not have been sitting in the sun and wind for a few days. I did not expect that the dignified young Master Su would actually participate in such a competition. But, as a person who was expelled from the inner sect to the outer sect, do you still have the face to sign up? What? Could it be that you can't bear the hardships of the outer sect and miss the inner sect? Su Dahai said very loudly, deliberately letting everyone around him hear. Although Su Yun was expelled from the inner sect, many people had not seen Su Yun before. After Su Dahai shouted, everyone began to understand. Whispers began to ring in each other's ears. So he is Su Yun. Is he the waste of the inner sect? In the inner sect, with such excellent conditions, he actually did not enter the 7th stage of the spirit novice realm at the age of 18. Looking at his qualifications, I am afraid that he will not be able to enter the spirit intermediate realm by the age of 20. Indeed, he is a waste. This kind of trash is only born into a good family. If we were in the inner sect, we could enjoy the superior training grounds of the inner sect and the miraculous pills and materials. I'm afraid our cultivation would have already broken through to the spirit intermediate realm. Yes, we are not worse than the inner sect disciples, but we were born at the wrong time. All kinds of harsh ridicule and contempt sounded. Seeing that even the outer sect disciples were looking down on Su Yun, Su Dahai's mouth cracked open, revealing a proud smile. Boy, this time I will make you unable to raise your head in the outer sect. Su Dahai ruthlessly thought. Can I continue to sign up? Su Yun did not seem to hear the ridicule around him, and just continued to speak. Of course. Seeing Su Yun's calm face, Su Dahai chuckled and immediately sat back in his seat. What? The dignified young master, Su Yun, actually fell into such a situation. You actually have to swallow your anger? No matter what, you were once an inner sect disciple of the Su family. Are you willing? Just as Su Dahai was about to complete the procedures for Su Yun, a clear voice came. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.